government have deliberately been allowing this to happen. But we know they're panicking. We know this is causing vast waves. I'll give you some examples. I have mentioned them before. So there's been no verification by Companies House since 1844. I started reporting this. I think I put my first report into action fraud. I think it was the end of 2022. On the 26th of October 2023, Companies House publicised for the first time ever proposals to, somebody's talking, to verify some details only. Okay, so they said they wouldn't be able to verify all details. Of course, that means they want to be selective on who can use this system of fraud and continue doing it. So they didn't do themselves any favours. And all they're doing is dropping themselves in it all the time. So I'm seeing, as I'm releasing and exposing my evidence, they're dissolving the companies behind it, even though they've been there for decades. They're changing the companies' names. Even the King and Prince William are resigning from companies. They're changing hands. And we're talking large organisations here. There's definitely huge things happening. But unfortunately, what it looks like, and I suspect they're doing, is collating all of the defrauded funds, and they potentially have very sinister plans in relation to what they may do to the public, which we can go into. But that's a whole different subject, really.
I think.
Gary, just to take a second, John. Sorry about it, John, because I'm just going to get Dean back on, because for some reason I don't know how he got to be dropped, or maybe there's an issue. Dean, if you could unmute yourself, because I think you had a question for Gary. Can you, Dean, if you could unmute yourself, because I think you had a question for Gary.
I'm there.
Right. Sure. You've got an echo. I'm going to drop you. Come back in. Yeah, just come back in, because sometimes on this it does happen where you come on and it starts echoing, and then if you just come back on, it does sometimes go off, because obviously, someone's probably recording. I don't know why they're recording. I mean, I record it anyway. I will be releasing all my recordings. I've got no issues with that, because this is exposing. This is a matter of public interest. You need to learn about this, and we're more than happy to provide you the evidence, which is exactly what Gary's been doing from the first day I met him. And the first day I've been speaking up, I've been making it available. Fortunately, a lot of people are not coming forward to get the evidence. Yet, we do know there's over 100,000 people that now are awake, and millions of people that are awake. But I just want to point out, while Dean comes back on, you know, he mentioned about 120,000 or so children. The figure's far bigger than that. And throughout the country, the world, so to speak, or the West, for example, we're losing on an average of 8 million children a year, minimum. Okay, that's not a small figure. That's a massive figure. While he's coming back on, John, did you have a question or a comment you wanted to add on there, sir?
Yeah, I was just thinking when Gary was speaking there, when he was mentioning about the companies dissolving themselves and not releasing information. Well, that to me, that identifies the fact that they're incriminating themselves in a deeper sense, and at the same time sort of incriminating others within the sort of organisation that's involved. And it's an organisation, and to me it links directly to the New World Order, and I can tell you the New World Order is taking place, 100% fact. I can honestly say that, because it's like the metaphor of Noah's Ark, where the Great Flood and all the rest of it, the transition from the old world into the new world, and this is what they're trying to do just now, and why they're doing the education and stuff like that of sexualization of the young children is because it's part of the distraction of what's coming, and then there's going to be bigger problems, I assume, by social services and others siphoning off the funds, as we see with Ukraine, Russia, Afghanistan and all the rest of them, Yemen and all the rest of it, Africa. So I think personally myself that everything that we're seeing is an illusion, but it's a distraction so that they can get their hands on the children. And why they want the children is because they want to do harvesting and the adrenochrome.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Totally. There's actually something I want to add on in there, but I'm going to let Gary add on first. If he has any input in with what you said, 100% I understand that. Gary?
No, yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with most of what you said there, John, and you're right about the adrenochrome. And I'm just going to mention I've got absolutely amazing evidence confirming it, which I'll just very quickly run by you. I know I think we did it in our last interview. But I was sent a few months ago a letter that appeared to relate to adrenochrome. It was a German letter. It's available to everybody to see within my public document file. It was translated by others and also myself. And it basically was a letter explaining that someone had intercepted a USB stick, looked on the USB stick and found a table of children's names, aged between 6 and 12, which you can see in the document. That's also part of the document that you can look at that I've got. And it says whether they've committed suicide or not. It says what blood type they are. It says the detention centres. So one was in Mexico, for example. It then goes on further down to show apparent sites in the UK that had been sent deliveries of adrenochrome. I think there was 3 in Liverpool, at least 1 in Manchester and some others. And it mentions the value of the adrenochrome. So the one of the blood types had a value in the table of $1,920 per milligram, and this letter was from April 2020. So of course I had that letter, and I had to sort of take it with a little pinch of salt. We've got to verify all of these things and see where it leads. So very significantly on the document, there was a company called CYM Limited, Charlie Yankee Mike Limited. And I searched that company because, remember, I'd been looking at Company's House anyway, and it led back to my company. Very quickly, it linked back, not my company, but Export Manor Freehold Limited, where I was part of and was removed for refusing to file the forged bank documents. But also, very significantly, it linked to the fraud that I'd already started to uncover. And then I will say this, I know I said that, sorry, Rangi, because I know you've heard this, but this is why I believe we're in a divine time, okay? Because so many things have happened to me that it's almost been handed on a plate to me. If I'm being honest with you, the evidence is literally falling in my lap. So on the 23rd of June, I was holding a live stream, okay, on my Telegram channel, and someone was listening in the background. I recognised the name, appearing to be the person that resigned from my company when I first wanted to look at the bank documents. Okay, they resigned. They were the acting chairman, and I ended up becoming the acting chairman and trying to figure out what had been going on. Anyway, they were listening in the live stream. So I called them out and I said, everyone, it appears as though there's someone from my company listening. Let's see if they're man enough to come on. And it took a few minutes, and there was a discussion, and they came on and they dropped themselves in it. And then this is very important because somebody else came on to the live stream, and I'm going to name them because it's probably I believe it's a false name anyway, called Reynard Wilson. And they came on, and I'd been interviewed by Reynard. He's a YouTuber, maybe a few weeks earlier, and it was clear in that interview that he was trying to undermine my evidence. Anyway, he dropped himself in it, and during this live stream, they literally handed it on a plate, and he confirmed that he had been in collaboration with other people from the company that I'm part of prior to the live stream. So I knew there'd been a collusion going on. Anyway, some very kind person, maybe within a day or two after that live stream, said, Gary, you need to look at this. And they sent me screenshots of an alias name for Reynard Wilson, a name of Colin Suderman, and that they were linked on Company's House records to CYM Limited. Okay, I tried to verify that. They'd removed the Company's House record from the time that the other person had found it, but luckily there was also evidence from LinkedIn, which those of you who don't know what LinkedIn is, it's like a social media for businesses. And there it was, Colin Suderman linked to CYM Limited, but not only CYM Limited, but linked to the military, research and development in relation to worked for Ericsson, research and development for 6G technology, but he was also linked to the vaccine companies via another company, been involved in the vaccines, Pfizer and what was the other one on there? Not AstraZeneca. I can't remember the other one on there, but there was... Pardon?
Oxford University.
No. I've got it documented anyway. You're going to be able to see all of this, okay? So that means my company have been in collusion with someone under an alias name trying to hide the connections to adrenochrome, the directed energy threat, which I think is a huge threat facing humanity. And I think we've got a weaponized system. That's a whole big subject, but a weaponized system integrated into our mobile telecommunication systems across the world at the moment. It ties to the vaccines, and it ties to the adrenochrome. And, of course, I've already got connections to the monarchy and the royal family via my company through other evidence, also linked through to the intelligence agencies, through to Russia as well. They try to hide the connection to Russia. Russia, unfortunately, is implicated in this as well. And my company has also got links to Ukraine. So there's a collaboration going on in all of these things that we're seeing. And it's all related to this fraud. It's all related to this.
Gary, do you know what? Sorry, the host. Gary, I reckon you should just do a podcast and talk for an hour and let people listen to your knowledge, because you're very eloquent and you're full of it. You've definitely got it, 100%. You've definitely got the voice for talk. You might have the face for TV as well, by the way. I don't know, but you might have it.
I definitely haven't got the face for TV.
You definitely were listening to you, and we're all like no one's going to interrupt you at the time. But you bang on the money.
Well, I speak the truth, my friend, and I only I've got the evidence. I wouldn't have believed. I would not have believed.
I jumped in. Sorry, Gary. I jumped in before when I heard you say about Harriet Harman with Pi. That's what I came in for. Harriet Harman, Patricia Hewitt, and Jack Dromley. That was them three back in the day. Yep. And I found the website yesterday, but it took me basically 2 days to try and remember the name of a website which someone's documented basically all local politicians, senior up to the highest echelons. It's called Labour25.com, and It's like it's kind of like the the UK database, which you've got the nonsense, I shouldn't say it, or the PDFs. It's anyone from up and down the country, but this specific website, Labour 25, it documents every person who's in a position of power, and you start going through it, and you go back into the 60s, and you're like, really, is there that many people in such a small circle that you're doing that thing?
Yeah,
it's shocking. It's so bad, like for our kids.
It is, and you've touched on some important stuff there, because now I don't want to. Let's just put this into context here, because I don't want to go on to too many different subjects and make everyone think, well, it's not connected. It is, okay, and it's through this system of fraud. If you imagine, this is the vessel, the creation of the incorporations through a criminal process, which then is being used as the vessel for everything, including the vaccine. I can explain to you exactly how the vaccine situation fits into this, but also the World Trade Center disaster, which ties in massively to this. I've got the evidence, and I urge everybody to go and look at my World Trade Center disaster document that I've created. It shows you the raw data through Companies House, researching all of the tenants in the World Trade Center. Harriet Harman and the Liberty companies linked significantly through to the World Trade Center disaster, and it's all explained within that document. And there's fraud all the way through it.
On the ball, fella. So, Gary, host, go on, Ranch.
Sorry, just 1 second, because there's a lot of great stuff that's been mentioned, but I'm trying to keep up with the comments. So, Gary, can you also just pop in, whether you put the messages in or if the girls will pick it up, put your email address so people can contact Gary directly. I'm also going to be suggestion, because it's what we need to do is everybody needs to come together. Drop him, obviously, a follow. you could message him that way and contact him that way as well. So you can start getting this information, direct information from Gary. Amazing work he's doing, and it does all come together. It all comes down together to the point of our children and the future, where we're going. And we have to start uniting, especially with, there's been a lot of comments with that. The other thing that I'm just going to quickly mention, I have been getting people come in to request to get in the boxes, but then when I go to them, they're disappearing. I'm not sure whether you've changed your mind, but if you are, try to get yourself back in and I'll get you in. Dean, sorry, go ahead, young man.
Yeah, sorry, Gary, going back to you a little tiny bit, was talking 9/11.
Yes.
You're very educated. You could just sit there for 1 whole hour or 2 and just talk, and we're going to sit there and listen like little students. But Peter Power 7-7.
Peter Power?
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again?
Have you heard the guy who was on ITV about 7-7, Peter Power?
Yes, I have. Yes, he's saying that was also a deliberate attack, wasn't he?
Yeah, I found that one there. If people think 9/11, okay, maybe it's like things were slipped through the net, but when you've got a guy who was doing a drill and then the exact same thing happened when we're doing a drill, but it was in real time, that should be a bit of a wake-up call for people who think everything's a conspiracy. Oh, you conspiracy. No, that there is a bit of a sketchy one for me. 7-7 Peter Power.
Absolutely, Dean. I mean, there's vast evidence in relation to the World Trade Center disaster. And if we think about it, I mean, I know we're going off topic, but it actually massively relates to the child trafficking, massively. Because I think the children are the number one motive in everything we've seen over the last however long. Because if you think about it, that led to what I believe is a false war or conflict between faith groups, which ultimately is leading to what we're seeing now, to full digital currency control. When they get the full digital currency control, that means they can they can fund the child trafficking, and there's very little that mankind is going to be able to do about it, because all they're going to do is they're going to freeze people's accounts who try and stand up to it peacefully. I mean, there's so much I could tell you so much about this subject, but it's all related to the children. It's a massive part of this.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just going to add on only with the bits and bobs that are going through the comments, because obviously I need to keep people not in check, but let them know who's part of what they're doing. So I did mention to you about the rapid response team. They are all coming together. They're actually working together. You've also got the peace constables. You may have heard of them as well. They're nationally groups that are forming together, but they actually all stand to within the link within themselves and with each other. There are charity organisations throughout United Kingdom that are starting to link up, and Wales. I know there's a few now that have started to link up in Scotland, which is amazing. And this is about a network of yourselves that needs to come together. So the more people come together, the information is going to be available. Now, I know there's been some comments about the information or what Gary is talking about. I will be getting this information and I will be making it available on the LCS website, so you can actually then download it yourself. It'll all be made available, and he will have access to the site anyway. So as he's found more information, he will be putting it on. We have had a chat with this, so we are going to be moving forward to even podcasts. So we could drip feed this stage by stage, document by document, so you understand it. Because I know a lot of people, it goes over their head. So even with what I've been doing, exposing the social services and what goes on in the schools, which is collusion, the police officers, the MPs, councillors, mayors, and how they steal our children. This is all going to be drip feeded very, very simply. So anybody that wants any further clarity with anything like that, if we know what is the kind of information you require, we will make it available. But on top of that, everything that comes through, we're just going to put a title on it. We're going to put it on the website, and you can just download it. As well as we're going to get his site sorted himself, which is on his TikTok, to expand it on that. Make it available, because this is all about networking now. Sharing that information is exactly what now Dana was saying. He's 100% right. the more people who actually have the knowledge, the more they speak about it, the more we could reach out and get the information out. So I totally agree with that. So if anybody did want to get in relating to the topics that we're talking about, feel free to ask a question or a comment to what we're saying. If I go to Star Seed, did you have a question there?
I did, Rangi. Well, I was going
John,
to say...
1 second. I think Starseed mentioned something there. Starseed?
Yeah, I just I put it in I wrote it down on the chat here. www family truth crimes, because it goes back all this. You see what Gary's saying. It goes back to in the 70s, even well before that, even. You know, all this. It's all this time period that we're drawing in on at the moment, isn't it? It's like a roundup of all this time that's coming together, and we're piecing in this big puzzle, pieces of it, bit by bit. The main.
Well, you make sure you just make sure you keep putting it in there, because this is how people are going to get the information. Then they can do their own research if they want. This is amazing. This is what we need, because there is a lot going on, and you can't expect one particular place to have it.
Correct. He was connected directly because it was his grandfather who was murdered by the Freemasons. So obviously it's a long thing. They've stole his money, and it's all connected to Freemasonry and ripping people off, and the Dutch Masonic and all of, you know, this is a worldwide thing.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there. I'm not going to mention his name, but I have actually, I think I know it is down south. All
over England, all over the world. Australia are having big problems with it at the moment, and there's certain people, there's a nice guy called John over there that's working, you know, doing the same thing what you're doing, really, because he's disgusted with it. And unfortunately, it's been set up all over the world by these people, if you can call them that.
Starfest, just sanctify there, then just type that in again so people could actually get access to that, because this is all part of knowledge. John, you were just about to ask a question, I believe.
I was going to say, what I feel that we need to do as well to sort of highlight the fact that there's so much criminality going on is the fact that what each and every one of us should do, if we could do it like from shoulder to shoulder, is identify the social services that you're involved with, and identify the names of the social workers, so that obviously you're not going to incriminate yourself. Somebody else is mentioning the names of the social workers, and therefore it would identify who is causing the problem. And obviously we all know it's down to line managers and core group members within any of these sort of child protection meetings who...
The trouble is, John, can I just intervene? Sorry.
Yeah.
The trouble is, this is so high, we're talking people above government are driving this down. So the social services are just basically part of what those above them are also part of. So we're not going to resolve it. We need to go straight exposing, I believe, everybody at the top of this to compel a change in the system.
Well, my personal opinion, what we need to do then is identify who's the ones that's funding the social services within a local government, and then reach out over and above that and say who are they acting for.
Well, you've got a guy called Douglas Dougie Smith. If you don't know, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Have
No, so he was the special advisor for the last few prime ministers in the UK. He probably is the special advisor still for Keir Starmer. He started up, according to the research, fever sex parties in 1998. Has been arrested for threats to kill. According to the research, I think he nailed a dead animal to a door when he was in university. And according to Nadine Dorries, with Parliament, he practices the dark arts. We can imagine what that probably involves. He advises our prime ministers.
I know who you mean now. I just realised this guy is the only about 1 or 2 pictures of him on the internet.
That's it. That's
the guy. Yeah, I remember. I did see his. When you mentioned his name just then, I thought that does ring a bell of a guy who's behind closed doors. You don't get to see him, but he's pulling strings, and he's got a bit of influence, or a lot of influence, on the person who's standing there on the lectern talking the talk, but the guy behind you, he's pulling the strings.
Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can see that my lips are moving again.
Yes.
Right, so just give me a few moments. I'm going to leave it with you again. This is normal standard, but we're not going to stay quiet. Just give me a few moments.
Yeah, John, I was just going to say.
Can I just speak?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go on, Sarah.
Sorry, like I've had past experience with social services. Shit, the shit that they do is like literally unreal, and judges will give them the power over anybody else,
Correct.
and they don't even have the evidence. They make up evidence to show to a judge, to give that judge the ruling at what, 5:30 on a night, and then they go in and then they take kids away
Correct.
after they've been to court, and it's wrong and it's not right, and the shit that they say it is not right. They twist and turn things and stuff, and something has to be done.
Yeah,
There's so much evidence of the corruption in relation to social services. I think we all understand now this is a criminal system. It's vastly corrupt. We understand that, I think, most of us. We now need to work on a collective strategy on how we resolve the whole lot, because it's a vast problem for us all. Sorry, Rangi.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there. So, I mean, this is going to tie in with what Sarah said and John mentioned earlier on with the social services. Even though, obviously, you've got to understand what we're talking about is systematic attack. Multi-leveled in every single way, whether it's school teachers, your CAFCAS, your social workers, the police station.
Totally.
So it's a systematic attack. But I actually believe 100% that we need to do all of it. So I am, Gary's taking on the role with what he's doing, 100%. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, where I'll be exposing every school teacher, every social worker, every team manager, every director, MP, councillor, mayors, CAFCAS. I don't give a monkeys, because at the end of the day, there's no point holding back with this evidence and this information. We have the evidence. Why are we holding it back? So this is what, look, over the last 4 years, this is the problem. Every single person I've actually shared this information with, there's been 100% unanimous decision, including detectives, sergeants, military personnel, and people of the public members who have actually come forward and thought, hey, we want to know more. We need to put an end to this, but it has to be together collectively. That's the big thing. We need to put our differences, because how they've been dealing with this, how they've been getting away with this, they've been dividing and conquering us for quite a while. There's always a distraction. You see, how does the devil work? While he's snatching his children over here, hey, look up over here. You see, we need to get away from that. Now we've got to systematically fight back. Okay, like what they do to us, we're doing the very same thing. And there's nothing that we're doing here. We're not breaking no law. This is all fact findings, what we're doing, and it's a matter of public interest. So, for example, I'll give you some safeguarding side of it on social services, or the CAFCAS, or any of the police departments on this topic. Anytime you meet them, you speak to them, get your devices out, put it on record. You don't need to ask the permission. You don't need to tell them. You don't need to notify them. This is within the law to safeguard yourself, okay? And you'll automatically start catching them. If they know that you're recording, what usually will happen, they'll cancel your meetings. So this is now the bottom level now. So obviously we're talking about the top levels, but we have to do it together, okay? Bottom and top, and
Randy,
all the departments.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, right? But throughout all this shit that I've gone through, I've found out on the government with the Ofsted in schools, there is an option to complain to Ofsted.
Yeah, no, Sarah, so I'll give you an example. Ofsted, yeah, they do tremendous great work, but I'm going to give you the result. In every single department you go to now where Ofsted has been, what do they tell you? They tell you that they're inadequate in all areas and unfit for purpose. And
Yeah.
we're talking about our babies in safeguarding, in child protection, our children, vulnerable babies,
Totally.
vulnerable parents. So with that alone should be a reason to say, hey, we don't want to work with this inadequate, unfit for purpose organization. Okay, the only difference is they have to put it in them words. It's just I put it in these words. They're liars, criminals, storytellers, to make it a little bit more real, and we're willing to provide you the evidence. Perjury, manufactured
Yeah,
document.
totally.
consent. Yeah.
I get that, but if we keep complaining to Ofsted about the way that they treat our children in schools and shit like that, then surely they're going to have to listen, because I'm having issues with my daughter who's anxious about going to school for one teacher who has his initials in front of him as a doctor, right? Bearing in mind, I don't give a fuck whether he's a fucking doctor or not. He's a fucking asshole. He shouted at my child numerous times. And it's just got to the point where the school is inadequate anyway, and they still have these people that are teaching our children.
So, Sarah,
We're teaching our children to be respectful and go to school and listen to these people, because these people are doing our kids a service.
Yeah, you see,
Sarah,
now,
do you know
look,
what I mean?
Sarah,
the whole sorry,
Sorry, one second, sorry, Dave. I'll get you straight back in. Now, Sarah, now you mentioned about complaints. Now, I do understand what you mean, and I totally agree. We should all put complaints in with every single one of them with what they're doing. But the outcome is they're just going to neglect it, because the problem is on the top, because they control the whole setup, they control the whole system. So, and look,
Yeah, they do.
we've got all the information and they still ignore it. They're victimizing victims. Look, I'll give you a live example. There's victims of child
Totally.
sexual abuse. I'll give you a live one second. Victims of child sexual abuse. The victim speaks up and social workers go and cover it up. So that victim, who is he supposed to report it to? Don't know. But what is for sure, the perpetrators are still on the streets. What are they doing? Continue doing what they're doing. So this is a matter of safeguarding, and nobody's going to do anything about it, because they're more interested in protecting themselves to cover up their own failings and mistakes. What are the failings and mistakes? They're inadequate in all areas and unfit for purpose. Or what I say, they're liars, criminals, storytellers. Stop working with them. Because don't forget, these are private corporate companies. Dean, you wanted to add on to that, young man?
Yeah, I agree.
Sarah, it goes back to what you're saying just then with safeguarding. You go on the BBC or your local media, as in for me, the Liverpool Echo. There's nothing worse than when you see somebody who's on the safeguarding team who ends up being found out. Is that they're one of them people, and you're meant to be looking after the kids, and you are one of the worst people possible.
Yeah.
You are safeguarding the kids, and you've been found out that you are a PDF. I just don't know how the kids can ever be safe around anyone. My kids are 14, he's downstairs playing Fortnite, having the time of his life. My little girl's 11, she's absolutely fucking fabulous, and I have to tell her all the time, don't trust anybody. I mean anybody. Nobody touches you. No one, ever. Nobody.
You can't anymore. That's
7,
the whole fact that I don't like. Sorry.
It's scary. No, it's scary that I've got to tell my little boy who's 7, and sometimes I show him little snippets, which is not, it's not graphic, or there's no swear words, but I say, look at this guy here, and he's about 22 years of age. You wouldn't think that he is messing around with kids, and he is. There's a guy who's 60, there's a guy who's 24, there's a guy who's 50, there's a PE teacher, there's a head teacher, there's a policeman, there's everyone's got to be careful. You've got to look after your kids, and if you can't tell your kids to be careful, and you're just blissfully ignorant, then I don't know what you can do for the next generation. It's sad, and it's sad that I've got to tell my kids all the time. With my oldest lad, you'd be surprised at the age of 14, you can still be roped in somehow.
Well,
It's awful because, like I say, I'm old school. Do you know what I mean? Came in when the lights came on and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't the media to show us this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but look, one at a time, because what it is, sometimes when we over-talk each other, I want everybody to have their say. I want actually Gary to... No, it's okay, my sister, that's not a problem, because at the end of the day, I want to give everybody the opportunity, because this is what it's about, and especially if you want to ask any questions about social services or the corruption, with Gary or myself, it doesn't matter, please feel free to do so. Because at the end of the day, we need to move forward. And also, we want to eventually get into the topic of how we're going to combat this. We know the issues when we're discussing the issues right now. How we're going to combat this, how we're going to put a stop to this. This is what we will get into as soon as I've made another cuppa. So what I'm going to do is first, with what we've already just been discussing about the social services and the problems with inside, Gary already understands that, but I do want Gary to put his little input in that, while I'm also going to have a nice fresh cup of coffee.
Everyone get a cup of tea and let Gary just run with it, because we're all going to sit back and listen. Get a pillow and sit back and listen.
Yeah, so if everybody could mute yourself.
Gary, I'm not messing though. You can run with it properly.
If everybody mutes themselves, Gary, if you could just take over for a few moments, because
I don't know how to do that.
It's all right, my sister. I think I've done it for you. Yes, I have. So if you just mute yourselves, Gary, just want you to take your time, go through a little bit of what's going on, and eventually I want to get into the combat side, how we're going to start fighting back the system, which also leads to some of the stuff that Sarah was saying, which is very, very important, and we'll go further from that. Is that okay, Gary?
Yeah, that's fine. So in relation to... can you make me one, Rangi, please?
I'll make two. I'll drink it for you.
Sarah, I think you're right. I think the complaints thing needs to be part of a strategy in resolving this, but it will not resolve it. I can tell you that now. And I'll give you an example. So bearing in mind I was in the police for 18 years, I have sent my evidence to, I think it's 40 out of 43 police forces, with irrefutable evidence of a system of child trafficking and abuse. None of them have even responded at all. 650 members of parliament have been sent my evidence, the most recent evidence. How many of them responded? None of them at all. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. They know how big this is. That is a huge alarm bell. The fact that they're not even responding to a former police colleague of theirs saying there is irrefutable evidence of abuse to children, adrenochrome. There was even... So let me just give you an example of the adrenochrome evidence. So I mentioned a release. I released and publicised my evidence from the CYM Limited Company, okay? I then did a further report to Dorset Police, my former police force. Within 48 hours of that report, there was a huge fire in Portsmouth at a recycling centre. Guess where the research of that fire led to? Back into the adrenochrome and the child trafficking and the fraud. So they're trying to destroy evidence in fires across the country, at recycling centres. There's other fires that people are now telling me about. That is how worried they are about all of this. It's vast. So we need a strategy that goes beyond the complaint process. I have a strategic document that I've produced. It's 18 pages. I'm open to interpretation and to views on that document. It gives a summary as to the evidence that I have, and then goes into a strategy on what I think we should all be doing. And I'm just going to read some of it for you now. I'm not going to read all of the document. Any questions from anyone at the moment?
No, carry on. No.
So, I believe
Sorry, Daddy, like I said to you, I'm just sitting here leaning on a pillow. We're going to sit and just listen to you go through it.
Have you got a coffee, Dean? Have you got a coffee?
You are my coffee. Go for it.
So the overriding strategy, I believe, and somebody mentioned this on the comments, needs to be peaceful non-compliance to compel a now essential change in the system to bring back truth, transparency, and trust. The only way we're going to resolve this in the long term is a change in the system now. Okay, they've been hiding the finances of the country. So there needs to be a transparent financial system, not that will expose people's personal contributions, but of contributions, but of course contributions, but of course contributions, but of course trust and very important, we need accountability and liability again in corporations. They've deliberately removed it. Okay, so corporations can get away with this criminal activity. That needs to change. There must be full verification of company and corporations, old and new, and if need be, those corporations need to shut down that aren't involved, that are not willing to do that. We must ensure that people are using their correct names, their correct business addresses, to ensure that there is accountability and liability. Immediately, you will have those individuals in those incorporations thinking, oh my goodness, okay, we can't launder money through our company now because my name's all over it. Okay? They've never done that. They've never done it deliberately. So that would stop money being laundered through those companies' accounts, because what they're doing is they're creating hundreds of shell companies off of, for example, their main one. They only have to have one illegal entity company, and they can launder money in small amounts through those hundreds of companies, and eventually it goes through into an account. The banks come in, forge the bank documents, and it goes into an offshore account. All right? That needs to stop. It needs to stop. So we need full accountability and liability through those company and corporations. I'm just reading from my document. If we bring in compel let's compel them, shall we say, to bring in a suitable system, it will eliminate the more likely chance of having any sinister motives of potential leaders overseeing that system. You have that type of system, doesn't necessarily matter whether we like the person who's trying to lead our country. We can see the money that they're spending and where it's going. We become the auditors if we want to be. That is now absolutely essential, I believe. Okay, there's lots of people saying that taxation is completely unlawful and illegal in itself. Probably is. However, if we need to obviously maintain a peaceful transition into whatever's going to happen, and this system must crash. Now this evidence is exposed. It cannot be sustained. Now this is being exposed around the world. Okay, 100%. And that's why what they're looking at doing, there's all sorts of talk of digital currency systems being brought in. Many of you have heard about them. BRICS technology. BRICS is used by Russia, China, and Brazil. BRICS uses blockchain technology. Blockchain is linked to the child trafficking. I've got the evidence. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. That must be stopped. I believe the public must have a secondary payment system in place away from digital currency control. So in the event of any corrupt government policies that they haven't run by the people, then the people can peacefully protest by withholding their tax contributions to compel a change in that policy. I think that is absolutely essential, because if that doesn't happen, the only way to change things is going to be through violence, and nobody really wants that. Potentially, it could lead to violence. We need to maintain the peaceful ability to compel changes in corrupt government policies, I believe.
No, 100%, Gary. I think that's made. Look, I've got a new person in there because I want to keep moving forward. If I get the Lone Ranger in, can you hear me, Lone Ranger? Lone Ranger, can you hear me? And Gary, by the way, I took your advice. I made you one.
Oh, thank you very much.
Guys, you know, I'm going to free the box up. Gary, you have been awesome. I'm going to listen in the background. I'll free the box up. But host, thanks for having me in. Everyone, have a boss weekend. and I'll check us all again soon.
Thank you very much, Dean.
Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Okay, bye. Lone Ranger, coming back to you. Can you hear us? Oh, he's dropped off as well. Lone Ranger, if you want to get back in the box or anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to do so. Get yourself back in. And I think somebody put a comment in. They'll try to silence Gary. Yeah, well, they're going to do that. Anybody who speaks up, but I'm going to be saying one thing, that in every single power that we have from our side, we're going to make sure he's not silenced. We're going to make sure he's got access to everything. And more importantly, once all the information and everything we've collected, we've made the videos, we're going to make sure that it goes viral. Everybody gets it. Okay. And the only thing I'm going to say to you is when the situation is like this, what I need from you is your prayers to make it and keep him safe, because that's what I need. Okay, so keep him in your prayers so we can keep him safe, and then he'll just keep moving forward. Thank you very much, Gary, for that. Let me just see who's asked you to request him, because I did have the Lone Ranger. He's not there. I've got no request as well. I don't know what's happening there. So, John, did you had something there? Because I know you muted yourself.
Listening to what Gary is saying, I think it's quite positive. We do need a system that needs to be put in place. But also what we need to do is, as you said, address accountability. And the only way to address accountability is to put those, i.e. the judges and the sheriffs, social workers, on the stand for, it could be anything from information bias to just total money laundering or whatever. But it's how to do that, and how do we make the change? How do we make that transition so that people are beginning to realise what's actually happening is going to eventually go against them. And not only that, it's going against the children.
Right, so I think what we'll do is, how about if we start going into a little bit of how we're going to have to combat this, okay? There's always a number of ways of doing it. Now, one of the things I am going to mention to everybody could be part of this, because it affects every single one of us. Public awareness is one thing. So any information that Gary has been sharing, everybody, it's your rightful duty to start sharing that information. Okay, I'm going to fully support what is happening, because it all leads back down to our children and the future of our children. And like I've said many times before, it's attack on women and children, because that is the future. Okay, so when it comes to public awareness, everybody, all you got to do is share the information. We'll provide you the information, we'll provide you the evidence, and you can then move forward with that and show it to the next person. And I think there's something that I am looking to do, is starting doing lectures again. Traveling the United Kingdom. So if you got a city, Birmingham or anywhere like that, you want to have a lecture, a talk of these topics that we're talking about, whether it's to do with social services or that, I will make arrangements to make sure somebody's there who will actually speak about it, talk about it, and provide the evidence, so everybody could be drip feeded. And look, this is, you could invite on that day anybody. You could invite your local police station, your sergeants, your detectives, your MPs, your councillors, your school teachers. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we need to make that change, but we need to show what kind of problems we're faced with so they can make that change. Because a lot of people still are not deluded, but still thinking that the system is great, because we've been indoctrinated in that sense. So sharing is a big thing, and this is about public awareness. The other bit that I do know is about the information, which I mentioned within the public awareness. The more information you actually have, that will also help. I am going to get Gary to add a few more, because there's a lot of topics of combating this, including with your local MPs, councillors, mayors, sending them the evidence and documents with that. Gary, you want to talk about a few minutes about the combat side of it? How we're going to move forward with that?
Yeah, well, I've actually got my strategy document here, and it is, please, this is only my opinion. I don't expect everyone to agree with it. Of course, everyone's going to have different opinions, and I'm open to, discussions around this. But I've put the very first way of combating it is what you've said. So share the evidence and form local community groups around this evidence, I believe, and other evidence. That's how significant I think this is, because it's the key to all of this, I believe. Okay. I think you need to be careful. A lot of people are trying to meet individuals on social media groups. I would advise against that, forming groups and actually meeting with individuals through them, only because I know that every social media site is linked to this fraud. I've got the evidence, including TikTok. They are all part of this fraudulent system. So they've been massively infiltrated. I've had loads of people becoming quite angry because I won't meet them in person, even though I don't need to meet them in person. Okay. Don't forget, the evidence I'm producing, anybody can just look at that and reproduce it themselves. All I'm showing is the evidential links through public documents that anyone can go and look at. So there's no need for me to personally be involved in meeting anyone whatsoever. But some people have been very angry about that. And just very quickly, before I move on to the next strategy, you've said about, keeping me safe. I'll tell you a quick story about what happened to me. My wife and I, we separated from our home when I realised how serious this was getting. I believe they tracked us to the vehicle and tried stealing devices from the van on a couple of days, but that's another story. We then got protection on our phones so that we couldn't be tracked so easily. But my wife went home and I was parked up in Barnsley at the time in a camper van. And I've got two dogs, two collies with me. And I got out of the van and the sliding door was facing into the road. Okay, so it wasn't on the pavement. And I saw that there was a surgical glove turned inside out down on the ground by the door. And it wasn't there before. It 100% wasn't there before. There was no need for anyone to be there. It wasn't where the pavement was. Anyway, I'd already made some connections to Russia in relation to this fraud. And as I got out of the van, there were two guys walking past the van and they were speaking what to me sounded like Far Eastern European or Russian accents. Didn't think too much of it at the time. They walked off round the corner. I walked off about two minutes later with my dogs, and they were coming back already towards the van. There was nothing where they would walk to. As they went past me, they were looking over their shoulder and obviously discussing me. And I got back to the van and I thought, my goodness me, was this an attempt? Because I knew about the Salisbury poisonings. And this glove was on the floor, so I took a photograph of the floor of the glove, sent it to my friend, wiped all the handles down on the door handles, and moved location. A few months later, I found significant links to Russia, where they're removing the name Fleming. Bearing in mind, I've told you about the connection through my company, removing the word Fleming from Russian company names. That are linked to this fraud and to the child trafficking and to the directed energy threat, and also removing the name JP Morgan from the company, which links to it. And they took out the Russia completely, and it was as I was exposing this fraud. So I just thought I'd run in there. But reading from my strategy document, so I think people need to consider community engagement above all else on this. You need to share the evidence. Use leaflets, flyers. There's some in my public document file, or you can create your own. Let's get these things posted. Let's get these things out to spread the awareness. Start forming groups. Have a coffee morning. Hire a community hall. Knock on a few doors and get a meeting going to start discussing what you're seeing in this evidence. Everything is verifiable, remember. Everyone can look at it and see it. That is very important and touches in with what Rangi was saying. Financial non-compliance is now, I believe, essential to save the children. Nobody can now legally pay any taxes because of this overwhelming verifiable evidence has now been exposed. A criminal system involving the taxation system. This is because anyone that pays into it now knowing this will be aiding and abetting this system of crime, causing suffering by making such payments. Suffering of children. What I've done is a conditional notice of acceptance. So it's a 9-point condition to compel a change in the system, and said, look, providing you do these things to the tax office, providing you do these things, I will then pay my taxes, and if necessary, I'll backdate my taxes as well. Okay, so we need to use that leverage, okay, I believe, to transit into a system that we need in a peaceful way, because very soon we're not going to have the ability to do this, because we're going to have full digital currency control and they're going to steal our money anyway from our accounts. This is very important. So there's a 9-point document I've put in my public document file. Sorry, Rangi.
No, that's great. No, I want to just point out one thing before I go to the next person. Look what Gary just said. Overwhelming evidence and information that you could actually watch and look at it yourself, have it yourself, to stop you funding them. Yet, all you need is one piece of evidence. So, for example, I'll give you it again. You could pick whichever angle you want. It's our children here. What we're paying tax for? Simple. Why? Why should I pay tax? And I haven't paid for years. Why? Because I know this. I know victims of child SA has been covered up by this lot over here, and all these departments, 999, Childline, NSPCC, nobody's done nothing about it. So why would I want to pay them? And I've stopped paying them. What are they going to do? Now, this kind of information, whether you want one piece of information or a whole load of this, or the overwhelming all the way to what Gary's talking about, we're willing to provide you the evidence for you to take the action. Because there's no point talking about it, you need to take the action.
You know, these children starting to talk about all of this now.
Yeah, say again, John?
You know, these children starting to talk about all of this now.
Yeah, well, actually, let me just add on that before I go to Roxanne. To what I'm going to tell you what I know about the children. There's so many children now that are coming out the care homes that are talking about how they've been abused in the care system. Physical, emotional, psychological, mental, alienation, sexual abuse, and the list goes on. Who does anything about it? Nobody. Because nobody knows about it, but it's game over. All that's going to come out. And remember, we as parents have got a responsibility ourselves. A time will come where these same children are going to come out and say, hey, we were babies. We couldn't defend ourselves, but where was the grown-ups? So it's our job to actually do something about it. John, totally agree with that. Roxanne, if I could get to Roxanne, could you unmute yourself, please? Roxanne, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Roxanne!
That's what I was thinking as well. That's what I think alike. Frank, you can do it for your side, mate.
Can I? Okay, let's try it. Yeah, I'm trying. It's not working. Okay, if I just go to the next one, is it Rico? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hello, yeah. Hello,
Rico. Did you have a question or a comment towards maybe Gary or myself?
Yeah, no, I think what Gary's doing is great, but the problem is a lot of people these days, if you even bring up what Gary's saying is massive and it could bring down the system, but most people, you can tell them stuff and they'll go, oh yeah, or they'll just forget about it and go back to their normalcy bias, or they'll just say you're one of those conspiracy theorists, and then because that's the way they've been conditioned. So even though I think there's a lot of people trying, I still think we're on this trajectory to go towards this digital currency, because I think it's just the way it has to go before the system will, in the end, destroy itself, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So, with the idea that you mentioned about conspiracy, now look, one I learned a long time ago, when you talk about everything, it goes over people's head, because don't forget, they've been indoctrinated. Talk about everything. It goes over people's head, because don't forget, they've been indoctrinated. Talk about everything. It goes over people's head. Right, John, I've dropped you. You'll have to come back in. So this is something that I've learned a long time, so I keep it very simple now. So I just talk about liars, criminal storytellers. So, for example, you want to know what they lie about, who do they lie to? You want to know about the criminal acts, physical, emotional, psychological, and the list goes on. We could break that down. You're talking about the storytelling, how they get away with it. It's very, very simple. And once you start drip feeding that information, what you'll actually find is they start to understand. So you got to understand the way I see it. They are conditioned. They are programmed like we were. Look, somewhere across the line, I was totally reliant on everything of the system itself and thought, yes, yes, yes. But it's only when you start learning about it, seeing it, or affected by it, Okay, so when they program, for example, it's our job how to reprogram them, and we got to drip feed. And this is the reason why we're doing this. This is why, very simply, Gary's saying any information you want, I'm willing to provide it. Any information what I'm talking about, I'm willing to provide it. So then you judge yourself, you see yourself, and then it's game over. But you do drip feed it slowly by slowly to the capacity that they can absorb. And then before you know it, then it's no longer a conspiracy, because then it becomes fact findings, not crap findings. Gary, do you want to add on to that? Because I think they've just frozen me. At least you haven't got my mouth full there.
No, you're absolutely right. This is, let's realise they're in real trouble. Okay, their backs are against the wall. In fact, they were panicking so much that they publicised an article with a business website a few months ago saying that the whole company's house registration system for all banks. I know that that's not true. I've got the evidence that's not true. They've got nowhere else to go with it after that. So they are in serious trouble. So we need, and that's why they're coming in, and they're now trying to produce saviors. So that's why we're getting Donald Trump saying what he is, Putin saying what he is. They're trying to gain the public's trust in those individuals so that they can then bring in a system. The trouble is they're linked to all of these problems. I've got the evidence. It's there. It's already documented. So it isn't going to work as long as we get this out to enough people. That's the difficulty. It's getting enough people to understand the truth in all of this. I forgot what I was going to say then, Mangi. I was going to make a point on what you said. I've forgotten. I'll be quiet.
It's all right. We'll get back to that because we're going to have plenty of time. We're looking for, obviously, the answers as well. So we're trying to give you the answers. I mean, why are we paying the tax again? We're paying it because we're thinking and believing that they're helping us community-wise in the police, they're supporting us. No, they're not. Okay, they're allowing the atrocities to take place now. It's no longer about preventing. It's about exploiting, and it needs to stop, because the more, for example, I'll give you an example of PO rings and things like that. They could stop all this if you're thinking for a moment that the police don't know about this or the social workers don't know about this. You're very, very mistaken. You see, now I could tell you that because these are facts. How are they facts? Because I've traveled the whole United Kingdom and I'm presenting it to everybody. And what happens? Everybody gets sacked, removed, or goes on a sick. Inadequate in all areas and unfit to purpose. And then nobody's being brave enough to do the right thing. So because they're not brave enough, does that mean that we've got to stay silent? The answer is no. We are held accountable for our actions ourselves. Okay, and Gary, we spoke about this. Me and Gary, we were godly persons. Eventually, when the time comes, we'll have to stand in front of the Almighty. What are we going to do? Say that we knew about it and we stayed quiet? No, we're not going to. We're going to make that change. We're going to do whatever it takes. And 100% the key is this. We can provide all the information and the evidence, whichever way you want to go, whether you want to go to the monetary side, we will call Gary's talking about, or the bottom side of it, which everything that I'm talking about that leads to that, or all of it. Okay? As long as you have that information, you need to share it. You need to share it. You need to get it out. Because on our own, for example, they will try to stop us regularly. And for those who actually know myself, last year, they tried to put a gagging order on me. How ridiculous is that? That just tells you itself. I'm talking about all this. And they put a gagging order. A rational, professional organization will be thinking, hey, we're concerned with what you're saying. What have you got? They don't do that because every time I've done it, they've gone on the sick. What am I supposed to do? So we have sick people running sick people, and then we got to work with sick people. I don't get it, but I do get it. We know it's a scam, we know it's a fraud, and we need to focus on that. So public-wise, we need to start sharing this information throughout the whole country. And yet everything that Gary's talking about, or myself are talking about, there's people from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, America are reaching out to get our information, so they're exposing it over there because they're going through the same thing. Yet it's actually encouraging a lot more people to stand up as well. Because they say seeing is believing. If you see the evidence, you have it, then you can say, hey, look, here's some fact findings, and then it's like beating them with a stick with it. In this particular war, that's what we need to do. And nobody's condoning no violence. I do not agree with it. But let's be realistic now. Our children are being stolen. You go ask them mothers now how they feel, them fathers now how they feel, the grandparents how they feel. And they're stolen by these people manufacturing documents, manufacturing concerns, manufacturing crimes against the parents and so on, and how they must feel. Their little babies stolen from them. That's just one side of it. What goes on behind the scenes is also what I'm exposing, because I've got the evidence. Committing perjury against our babies. Our babies want to go home, but they'll write down in the documents that they don't want to go home. This is illegal. This is criminal. Okay, very, very simple. Let me just see who else, because I do get people requesting and it just keeps to be dropping. All right, I've got John back on. Rico, did you have another question that you might wanted to ask?
I've never understood what Nicola Bulley. I want to ask Gary about Nicola Bulley. I know just for me, because I just want to know the connection that she had to this fraud.
Yeah, massive connections. Well, it's somebody else actually that needs to take a bit of credit for this, because they said, Gary, you need to look into it. So I started researching, and Nicola Bulley's husband worked for BAE Systems.
Oh dear.
And at the time of Nicola Bulley's disappearance, BAE Systems was developing an actual directed energy weapon, okay, with various other companies, including Thales, Cobhams, which is based down in Dorset, and another company, is it Raytheon? Anyway, the police investigating the Nicola Bulley death are linked through companies that I've produced the evidence for to Thales, to the same company that was creating the directed energy weapon. Not only that, they're all linked to the fraud. All of these companies are the same companies. They link back to the company I was part of, Export Manor Freehold Limited. There's two very prominent companies that feature in all of this. And that's because they're on the documents of my company, Export Manor Freehold Limited. You can go and look at it. When you look at the incorporation document, you've got Swift Incorporations Limited and another company called Jordan's Limited. Jordan's Limited is an illegal entity company, and the illegality continues through the documents. As soon as you have an illegal part of a document, a fraudulent company on a document, even if it's not that particular company, then that document also becomes illegal. So it's a massive web of fraud and corruption with the illegality following through the documents. So anyway, I found out that there was this connection. Then as I publicised the connection to Swift Incorporations and Jordan's Limited, the diver, Peter Fording, changed his story. Not the diver, the search guy that was brought in to look for Nicola in the river. He suddenly came out and changed his story. Initially, in February, I think, 2023, when she went missing, he said he searched the river. She definitely isn't there. 100% she's not there. After I publicised my evidence, Swift Incorporations and Jordan's, he then came out in a news article and said, no, I did find what I believe is Nicola. I told the police. They said they would go and check it out and search the riverbed, and it wasn't her. That was after I publicised it. Peter Fording's companies, guess what? Swift Incorporations and Jordan's Limited. Also to an address of 788 to 790 Finchley Road in London, which had already been identified as international child trafficking linked to and to international government fraud, to an empty shell of address that was being investigated or highlighted by a gentleman called Gordon Bowden. I have evidence from someone who worked with him that he was poisoned and killed. So then you had the lead investigating officer, who was Peter Lawson, who had been investigating the Nicola Bulley case. He was suddenly found dead at the age of 50 in his home address. The chief constable, I can't remember his name. In fact, his name was Rowley. So I suspect, I can't remember his first name, I suspect he is related to Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Chief Constable. He resigned after criticisms of the investigation. I suspect what happened is, this is only a theory, that Nicola's husband divulged a depopulation plan in relation to weaponized radiation systems integrated into the mobile communication systems around the world, and that she may have been thinking about telling everybody, because that's a huge part of all of this, which I can go into a lot of detail about if you want me to.
Well, this feeds into the New World Order then.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely New World Order. Right, so I'm just gonna, because I know there's a lot of new people on here. So anything that Gary is actually talking about or myself are talking about, it's very, very simple. We're that transparent and open with these things. For any clarity, please get in touch. So anything that Gary's talking about, I'm going to make available on there. You can contact him directly. If you can't, drop him obviously a follow as well. You can directly communicate. Gary, if you don't mind, if you could just because I know people want to communicate with you, which I want, because this is what it's all about. It's everybody coming together. It doesn't matter about anything else. So if you can, just maybe put in the comments about your email, or I definitely will say, just contact him through even the TikTok, give him a follow, give him a message, he will get back to you. Or if you get through to us, I'll still forward the information that he'll still provide it to you. That's not an issue.
Gary,
Okay?
I actually tried sending a message to you with some information, but I couldn't get access to you, so I don't know if it was something on the day or whatever.
No, my TikTok got removed after I did, I think, the second live with Rangi. Even though I didn't have much information on it, they took my whole site down, took the whole account down.
Right, okay.
So what I'm going to do is put my email addresses. My Telegram channel is still up and running. It's massively infiltrated, massively suppressed. The numbers aren't going up. They've stopped the numbers going up, and people are being kicked off. But I'm going to put it in the messages anyway, so people can look on there if they want to. I'll also, sorry, Rangi. I'm presuming people can copy and paste from the comments, so I'll also put the evidential file link, public document file link on the comments as well, so you can hopefully copy and paste that and get that.
I think we should all work collaboratively together on a strategy, because obviously whatever we're all doing just now doesn't seem to be working the way it should be working. But if we all sort of put our sort of intelligence together and knowledge, then we can all feed off each other and give a straight, direct sort of attack upon the authorities. Or I don't even call them. I know it's not authorities. It's above the authorities, if that makes above the authority.
Well, one thing I'm going to add on to with what you mentioned, I mean, people are actually coming together. They are actually working together. You're always going to find issues and problems because people might have a different mindset. But however...
Oh, you've frozen.
No. You must have got to say something important.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. We all need to come together. I mean, I'm going to put my document file. I would advise. That's it. That's it. That's what we all need to do. But I'm open to comments, suggestions. I know some people have seen it and said it's literally what we all need. But of course, everyone's open to different opinions and what have you. So I'll put my public document file link in there. When you go into it, you'll see the summary and strategy document is by itself within there. Most of the evidential documents are within the public document. They're the evidential research documents file that's in there. But not all of them have got a description within them, so you might not understand them. So I do advise everybody to look at the two that I have put a guide in the document, which is the BCP Council document and the World Trade Center disaster document. I will put that in the comments as well anyway, so just so you've seen it.
I can actually honestly say to you as well about the banking system, and I know this for a fact. All the banks in the UK will be closing down. Obviously, it'll be international as well. Simply because, as you say, they want to bring in the digital currency, blockchain, QFS or whatever. And basically what they want to do is to have more control over people's accounts, i.e. universal credit, universal basic income. And this way that they have control over the children, have control over what goes in and out of people's businesses. And they're saying it's going to stop fraud, but it's not. There's always money under the table of some form, if it's by goods or by cash or whatever. Or there'll be some form anyway, by transfer. So what what the plan is close down all the banks, put it into call centres, have one or two wee hubs of, like, let's call it old people who aren't savvy of the internet and stuff like that. Then basically what they want to do is get rid of all the call centre staff and then use AI to take over. And then they've got total control. It's not the government that we know. It's over and above the government, the new world order that's going to take over. And I'll tell you for fact, 1,000,000%, that is what's happening.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. We really need to try and stop that happening. If we can do anything to compel a change in that, because unfortunately, if we think things are bad now, it's going to get much worse if that all happens. Much worse.
And you look at the technologies as well. There's technology out there. It's like flies, and I'm talking literally like flies, mosquitoes, but they're not mosquitoes. They'll unleash them on people, and they'll just disintegrate people.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard about this technology. I mean, we do need to remember these are evil people at the top of this. Make no mistake. They're involved in the murder of babies, the murder of children. I don't know how many of you know about the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, but I've done research on that. It was 2 children, for those of you who don't know, who were interviewed by the police and made very horrific claims against their father, who I'm going to name Ricky Dearman. You know, these are the allegations they made. And supposedly their father was the ringleader for various other parents from the school, and they were sexually abused in the school, but also in the church. And not only were they sexually abused and raped, according to these 2 children, they were made to take part in the murder of babies and the drinking of this baby's blood. Now, that investigation got dropped, and in fact, they did prosecute the mum who was trying to get this exposed, and supposedly another lady who was trying to support the mum. The judge that was involved is linked to the child trafficking. I've got the evidence in that case. The 2 heads of Ofsted that we've already talked about are linked to the child trafficking. I've got the evidence. The National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children are linked to the child trafficking. Childline is linked to the child trafficking. Children in Need, you name it, it's all linked to the child trafficking. But Ricky Dearman, when you research Ricky Dearman through Companies House Records, guess what? Back to my company, the same companies throughout, international government fraud all the way through it.
See, the thing that I can't get out of my head around is why did they use your company? There's probably other companies as well, but is it sort of a circle of companies that they use, like from one company to the next company, like registration of, I don't know, it could be a document or it could be a director or something like that. Is that the way it works? I don't know.
So it's all linked to Freemasonry. All goes back to Freemasonry. You can see the evidence through my documents.
Were you an acting Freemason?
No, never. Which is why I'm able to do what I'm doing.
Oh, cool.
I'm under no blood oath. I was never asked. I was a very unusual police officer. Probably, I don't think there was, maybe one other person that was like me. I literally wanted to go out. I was running around. I was trying to get everybody, well, not get everybody. I was trying to go to all the jobs, trying to help the public. That was quite unusual in the police, and I think they saw I'm not suitable for Freemason. So I was never asked.
Yeah.
I sort of asked that question, but I just felt it was quite relevant when I know there's like the Black Circle and all the rest of it, and it's involved in it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the Freemasons are all, I don't know.
I don't know.
But also, what we need to investigate here is, where did it all stem from? Where, in true reality, where did it all stem from? It was from, as you said, the Freemasons, but who was behind the Freemasons?
Yeah, John, the question that you're asking, I mean, look, it's all about good against evil, and you know this has been going on for a very, very long time. Okay, it's where we're going with it now. At least if we acknowledge where we are now, understand it's about good against evil. It has nothing to do with color, creed, religion. It's to do with good against evil. And this is what we just need to focus on, because only together we are going to be able to deal with this matter and put a stop to it. Otherwise, ahead of us, we got a nightmare coming up, which you know about this new world order BS lack. Behind us, we have already seen, and we've seen the experience of what's been happening. We don't want to repeat it. We want to stop it as much as we can. And the only way we could do is actually everybody coming together. That's the only way. If I could go straight to Roxanne. Roxanne, can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah.
Did you have a question for Gary or myself in the topics we're talking about?
No, just I hate this whole the children and gang stalking and all. And I'm just listening, and I want to know.
That's how you'll know if you listen.
Yeah. If you keep listening, if you keep listening. Sorry, Roxanne, I'll let you go first.
You learn by listening.
Right. It's the only way.
But Roxanne, what I'm going to say is you'll also learn if you go onto his TikTok channel, or if you even go onto mine, or if you go onto the website, you will find information and you'll find evidence. And best thing is, have a look at it, watch it, and then if you've got any questions relating to what you've seen, relation to anything what Gary's talking about. So, for example, tomorrow, if it all goes well, I believe we're back on tomorrow night. You could come in and then ask him the question, because clarity is very, very important. Having the information is one thing. Once you've got clarity, then you could use that information and pass it forward, and then you could duplicate that, which is absolutely what we need to wake the public up.
Okay,
so if you want
thank you.
No, not a problem. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to keep it circulating because I do have a few other people that keep bringing in, but
I don't know how to kind of get off of here.
It's okay. I'm going to do it for you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us. You can stay in the box, keep listening. That's not a problem. I'm just going to quickly go back for Rico there, because I know Rico muted himself just in case if he's got a question, further question that you might want to add on.
Yeah, I was going to say that this goes back thousands of years, because the same bloodline families run the system today. And the thing about what they do is with their own children is they will traumatize their own children so their children have no empathy when they grow older.
Yep.
So they don't have any empathy. And the thing is, the problem is the Freemasons that when they get to the 30th degree, they get told that the god of Freemasonry is Lucifer.
Yep.
And that's the god of Freemasonry, because they have it that Jesus, our God, the creator God, was actually like keeping man without the knowledge. And when the fallen angels came down and taught man how to build breastplates and all the things we do now, war with each other. So they believe that Lucifer gave us all the knowledge, and that's their guide. But the thing is, if you read like Albert Pike, Sovereign Grand Master Albert Pike, he wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini about 100 odd years ago. There's a copy of the letter in the Library of Congress in America, and it talks about the 3 planned world wars, and after every war, what it will accomplish. And like the Second World War will be, they'll create a Jewish state, and the Third World War will be the countries fighting against each other, and that's basically what it's going to be. But they want to depopulate to roughly 500 million, 1 billion people, because they're not going to have a universal basic income for me or anyone else who's on that list as a troublemaker. It'll only be the people that will comply with what they're willing to do. I don't want to be anything to do with any of this. My brother is now in Bupa home. He had a massive brain bleed because of the vaccine. They changed the law in 2023, the government, so he doesn't tick any of the criteria to have his care paid for. So he's being charged £2,300 a week for a problem that was given to him by the Pfizer vaccine. So I didn't take any of that. And I know what they're going to do with the cell phone towers as well. Basically, goes hand in hand with the vaccine and the nanotechnology. It's mental. It's like Doctor Who stuff. If anyone thinks I'm conspiracy theorist, look at the patents. Look at what's coming. And Gary will know this. It's so dark that if people think it's bad now, they haven't got any idea how bad it's going to get. I don't want to be negative, but this has to play out, and it's how it is. So we need to. I mean, it's going to be it's going to. Men's hearts will fail them for fear for what's going to come on the world. I'm telling you, and we're getting there. It's getting closer. So we need. I don't know if there's any way to fight what's coming, because so many people now are sort of. They've about 300 families run everything, and they've got hangers on which get paid good money. They don't want to give it up. So the trouble is, if everywhere you turn is corrupt, it doesn't matter. If you can go, you talk to the police about common law, they don't know what you're talking about, so it doesn't mean anything to them. You see, no one would understand about what Gary's going on, because most people are too busy watching what's on Match of the Day. Do you get what I mean? It's like we're at a higher level, and the trouble is the people at lower levels, they just don't comprehend it, or they just don't, because it's not on the BBC News, you know? Simple as that.
Yes. No, Rico, you're totally right. Now, I'm going to let Gary to get into that, but this is the reason why it's so important to people see the evidence yourself. Anybody, Gary, myself, it doesn't matter who it is, once you start doing these things, you're always going to have issues and problems. You're all going to always be targeted. It'll be slandering, slating. It's just normal. Okay, I mean, I've been going through this for a long time, okay, yet nothing will fit in apart from the evidence. Evidence is what talks, okay, and the BS walks. So, it's very important people get that information, get it off Gary, get it off myself, and have a look at it yourself. And then you see, get it off Gary, get it off myself, and have a look at it yourself. And then you see, right, I'm taking you back off because you're echoing again, John, but Gary, do you want to just add on to what Rico said, which is back to obviously trying to unite people, trying to focus to get them all together, to see the evidence on a common platform. Gary?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rico. This is the problem that we face. However, please remember, I don't think we've ever had this type of evidence, or certainly this amount of evidence to show what's really been happening. This is the first time in history that I think we've had so much evidence to show such an international corruption, all being centralized, which will affect everybody. And it's all by a very small amount of people. So we are in an incredibly positive time still. And look at the timing of it. Look at the timing. They haven't actually instigated any of what they're planning yet. In terms of, we've still got cash. We've still got a voice. We've still got time to stop it. But it will take the masses. So all of us now, once you believe this, and don't just trust me, go and look at a couple of, I can give you a company to look at now. We did it the other night. If you type in Vistra Limited on a company's house now, go and look at the incorporation document. You'll see that Hammerplag Limited is on the document. They haven't registered it on the page. It's an illegal entity. If we get everyone to see an example and to do it and look at it, go and knock on your neighbours and say, look, I know I don't want to buy. Can I just show you something on company's house quickly? And then get them to look at it and say, right, well, there's a former police officer that's saying we're all in serious trouble and this is why. And then keep doing it. We can't give up, because if we don't change this now, I believe it's the end of humanity altogether. And I don't want to be negative, all right, because you can tell I'm still really positive. I'm still incredibly hopeful. I'm incredibly enlightened, because I think we've all known something that's been wrong. My dad certainly did. My family have known, we all know something's wrong with this world. This is it. This is it. This is the system of the crime they've been using to cause most of the problems in the world. This links to the wars, because the weapons companies they're using are linked to this fraud. That means every bullet that is fired becomes illegal. Full stop. Because you can't buy anything with a legally obtained money through a fraudulent criminal taxation system. Anything they spend it on, including ammunition, becomes illegal.
Gary, can you just mention Vista again, just so people actually could pick that up?
Yeah. Shall I actually show it now? I mean, can you do it as well, Rangi, and you tell me when you're there, and then they know that...
Right, just me 1 second. Life is beautiful. You wanted to quickly get in?
Yeah, sorry, Rangi. I want to ask all the viewers that is actually watching your live now. Can anyone and everyone who actually are genuinely, sincerely, from their heart supporting Rangi, just to put a heart in the comments, please? And I've got a reason to why I'm asking this.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Life is beautiful.
Hang on, Rangi. There's a reason for this. So everyone who's supporting Rangi, please put a heart in the comments.
I can't find a heart. I've got a hearty face.
anything, just a heart, okay? Okay. And okay, the reason I'm asking, I've just been on Queen, Inspector Queen, whatever her flipping name is, live, right? She's shaming Rangi. She's really is shaming Rangi. So I want everyone, please, requesting everyone, okay, to get off this live, to go onto her live and report her live so it bans. And then come back on here, please.
Okay, let me quickly nip that in the butt as well for those who probably don't understand. Now, you see, with what we're talking about, with Gary, what he's talking about, with what I've been talking about, liars, criminals, storytellers, manufacturing documents, manufacturing concerns, manufacturing crimes. And remember, I was talking about the authorities in general. It actually does happen in the public as well. Okay, copying and pasting, slandering. This is just normal, even though it's shameful. You see, the focus should be on our children, but people obviously, I don't know, they've lost their path, lost their way, whatever you want to call it. There's no truth in anything. I mean, for me, I had a lot of people trying to say things about Gary. I don't pay no attention. I see the man with an action. He's not talking about it. I see him for what he's doing, and I give the full respect for that. And that's how each individual one of us are held accountable for our own actions. And look right here, for any clarity, please get in touch. This is exactly what Gary's also talking about, which we're now going to be making it available to every single person. So, you know, I understand what the sister said, you know what I mean? It's nonsense. It has put my life at risk, but I want to end this because this is not where we waste time with other nonsense people. So, I mean, I don't take no rubbish from the authorities. Why would I want to take the nonsense from somebody else? So, you know, I'm just going to leave it as that. But I'm going to let everybody do what they need to do. I need to focus on obviously moving forward and the strategy moving forward. So, again, for any further clarity, get in touch, okay? Regardless of anything, all this scandal, this side, and even what goes on in the public, because there are links, and I could prove there are links, okay? Why are the POs getting away with everything? Because these are covering up their mistakes, and these are linked with people who I could only presume that they're involved and they don't want me to speak up. And the same thing will be happening to, obviously, Gary. And this is why it's so important that we support each other, we protect each other, and we need your prayers. And obviously, I'm going to be fully supporting Gary, whether anybody likes it or not. For me, I need to move forward with that. Just with the topic of moving on with what we were talking there, Gary, about, I'm not sure if you want to add on anything what you just said, or going back to what we were talking about.
I've forgotten actually what was said. Sorry, I do apologise.
Sorry, Gary, but I had to jump in.
Right, do you want me to drop you back down there, or can you do it yourself? Because we're talking about moving forward, we're talking about supporting the cause, we're talking about getting the information out. That's what it's all about. Everybody needs to focus on that. That's what it. Forget anything else. Right now, we're going back to the focus of what we're supposed to be doing. We're held accountable. The information is so important, what Gary's actually been sharing, which needs to be available for every single one of you. You need to have that information. Okay, and the more information you have, look, whether you want it to do with the banking system, the monetary system, social services, or the police, or the school teachers, or your local councillors, your mayors, between us, we're offering everything to you with evidence, with material, not just talking, with backing ourselves up with evidence. Okay, so this is very, very important for every single person that needs to learn about this. get involved. Now, look, this is actually now collectively throughout the country. If anybody's listening, doesn't matter which town and city you are, if you believe that all these crimes are illegal and you want to help and support, if you let me know which town and city you are, I could link you up with people who are actually suffering through this right now. I can't get to every single person. I don't have a solicitor's firm. I could only guide them to the best way possible. But now it's about time that people actually come forward to help and support the victims. And the reason I'm going to give you is, on an average, we lose 5,000 fathers that commit suicide a year. We have thousands of mothers that are committing suicide a year. Think about it. And there's millions of people like this going through this right now, where mothers, our children are stolen away from the fathers, and the trauma that they go through, they're isolated because we got to follow a complaint procedure, and the social workers are telling the truth. No, they manufacture crap for a living. In the family courts, it's not called fact findings, it's known as crap findings. Can I prove this? Yes, I can. And actually, I can prove everything what I've been normally talking about. So this is why people don't like me, and I don't care, because my job is to wake you up. And exactly, we're going back to the topic of coming together, what we need to do, how to combat this, is seeing evidence, having the evidence, the information to deal with it. Now, I do know over the last couple of weeks, there's so many people that came forward in Birmingham. So right now, I'm connecting everybody in Birmingham with the Birmingham people, with the organisation, the charity organisations that are awake, that are coming together. And this is how it needs to be in every single town and city. Okay? Gary, do you want to add on anything to what I've just said? Because I know I've got a couple of...
It's probably a good idea for me to just summarise a little bit, because you've obviously got a lot more people on now. So I'll just give a brief summary of things. So I was in the police for 18 years. I left the police in 2018. I was a director for a freehold company called Export Manor Freehold Limited, based in Bournemouth in Dorset. We were having a roofing project done in 2021, 2022 that was worth £300,000 or thereabouts. And I approached the acting chairman because the managing agent had disappeared. I couldn't contact the managing agent for the building. And the chairman became angry at me. Signed shortly afterwards. I became the acting chairman. Obviously realising something had gone on, didn't quite realise how huge it was going to get. Thinking some money had been taken from the accounts, we arranged a meeting, myself and another director, with the management agent. They refused to discuss anything with me and resigned there and there on the spot. We gave notice to resign. So, of course, things escalated. 2 other directors resigned. Okay, eventually I acquired forged bank documents through our company account, and they appear to have been created, these fake bank documents, by Lloyds Bank themselves. An investigation was, a report was made to Dorset Police, which is my previous police force, and also the Action Fraud team. This eventually led to me acquiring evidence suggesting Dorset Police were involved. So they confirmed in 2 emails that they were allowing these bank documents to be produced by the banks and used in circulation, and therefore being used by companies to falsify their company's figures. I escalated it to the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the Serious Fraud Office, and to the Home Office. This eventually led, because they all refused to intervene, even though Dorset Police had leaked information of my reports to prime suspects that I'd already named, who are linked to the intelligence agencies, to the NHS, to the police, and to international banking fraud and pharmaceutical fraud and energy. To the NHS, to the police, and to international banking fraud and pharmaceutical fraud and they all refused to intervene, including politicians. I then found evidence that the heads of those organisations were including politicians. I then found evidence that the heads of those organisations were
Right, John, I've just dropped it again because you're echoing. Sorry about that, Gary. Go ahead.
That's all right. Obviously, as this is escalating, I'm realising it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They're just dropping themselves in it all the way through this. I then find out the real problem, because I'm looking into Companies House more and more, realising, okay, there's going to be something in Companies House here, and it led to what the real problem is in all of this, and that is that our international governments have been involved in the forgery of the company registration systems, a crime to create illegal entity companies that should never have been allowed to trade due to the forgery in their incorporation, but have been continuing to trade, meaning they can be getting away with anything they want, including child trafficking, child abuse, child murder, torture, abuse, and banks being producing forged bank documents for those illegal entities to be falsifying their figures and send the real money into offshore accounts. It can be used for the taxation system. It will be worth trillions and trillions of pounds in defrauded money from the masses. It's vast. It links to Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Max Clifford, Jimmy Savile, the royals, politicians, Keir Starmer, even Rishi Sunak has used a false date of birth to register him, well, or somebody who has created his record has used a false date of birth to register him on Companies House. That is a crime. Our own former Prime Minister. It's huge, it's vast, it's over, because they are now fully exposed with their back against the wall.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just a quick one. Whatever you do, you know, with me saying that there's a lot of people up and down the country, do not give your locations out, okay? Don't be giving your addresses out, nothing whatsoever. And whatever you do not share any of your documents on public media. You should only be sharing your information with the legal team or who's actually helping you with your cases. So it could be your advocate or it could be your solicitor or your barrister. So whatever you do not put anything like that on public media, because, you know, we don't know who's looking in, who's not. It's not right. And specifically, if you're involved currently in a case, if you do anything like that or even speak up about it, it will only be used against you as a weapon, okay? And it will cause more damage in your case. There are so many particular mothers who have been gagged or even jailed. I'm not even going to talk about who they are. Some people know about the cases. So whatever you do, do not do that. Okay? Just add on that side. If I could just get to, is it Wendeline, is it?
Yeah, hiya. You okay?
Hi, do you have a question for Gary there?
Yeah. No, I'm just, I am part of Gary's Telegram group. I do add a few things, so I want to say thank you to all of you for everything that you do. Finally, right, this is about the social services and that finally my daughter's 16 now, so I can talk out. And yeah, well, they took her into care when she was 3 years old. Thank God I got her back. They took her off me for like a year and a half, made me jump through masses of hoops to get her back. Thank God I did get her back, but they were involved pretty much the whole of her life. Because I'm a single mum without any family around me. I had a bit of an alcohol problem when she was younger, so they took full advantage of that. Beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl. She was 3 years old. I had nobody around me. Thank God I sorted myself out though, and I did get her back, and even the magistrate said to me, you're very lucky to get your daughter back. Like, not many people do. But I know how corrupt the social services are, and I feel now that she's 16, I can start talking out about it a little bit. A lot, actually, and I want to know what I can do.
There's a lot that you could actually do, but I'm just thinking about usually at a certain age they have the right to come home, and usually it's a 12-year-old. But because I don't know the circumstances, it's hard to really tell you any form of advice on that right now.
No, I got her back. She was sorry.
All right.
Breathe, Wendy. Somebody, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I got her back when she was like 5. They took her for about a year and a half. But throughout most of her childhood, they were in and out. As soon as I took a step wrong, they were there at my doorstep, knocking on the door. Like I'd piss the neighbour off, so they'd ring the social services on me. And I'd have the social services knocking on my door. So what I'm saying is, she's been around. Well, she's been with me since she was 5. well, from birth to 3, then she was gone for like a year and a half, came back at 5, and I've had her since then. But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, like, now that she's 16, I feel like I can start speaking out about my story.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to suggest is before you start speaking out, why don't you try to get all the information together? Because you'll need it, because obviously evidence obviously talks, because then you can at least present that. So, for example, everybody who is involved in your case itself, have you ever done the SAR request, a subject access request, a data request for your case?
No, I haven't. Is that, that is something that I want, is the paperwork for my case, because there was so much.
Yeah.
Like, putting other people's information into my documents and.
Yeah, so I could get you the template for that. It's actually on the website. If you go to the community section side, there's a subject access request document there. But send it in to get your documentation from everybody who was involved. Okay, social workers, schools, medical, whoever was involved, it doesn't matter. Just put your side request, because it'll take time. They have 30 days to provide you that information and evidence. Okay, plus all your documents that you already should have with your case, that you've got paperwork. Do you still have your paperwork from that time?
Yeah, I have got it. I've moved house a couple of times, so it's a bit all over the place, but I've still got bits of it.
All right, take your time with that, because it could be overwhelming, because I know I went through the damn thing myself, so 4 years.
Yeah.
Do that, because once you've got the information, then I could help you how to bring it out into the public, okay? I just don't want you to put yourself in any risks at all right now, okay? That's not what we do, but if you're going to go public, I'd rather you do it properly, and I don't want to put you in no firing line. That's the same for every single person. I don't want them going through that firing line. It's dangerous. It's scary.
I do understand what you're saying, but I do feel like people do need to start talking up. And like I said, now that she's 16, they've not got the grasp on her anymore. So it's about time I started using my voice and speaking out and letting people know what I know.
No, that's fine. That's my suggestion for you right now for what you need to do. So once you've got that done, or if you need a hand with that, if you contact us, I can get you through to a few people who will help you with the SAR requests. Because sometimes it's in the wording, what you use in the different, medical be slightly different, social services be slightly different, but you need to get all your data together. Okay. Once you've got your data, then you could. Well, then you've got your ammunition. You'll catch them with everything else that's gone on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I'll give you an inbox.
Yeah. Drop us an inbox, and what I'll do is I'll get somebody to get through to you just for the SAR request, because you're going to do it at stage, otherwise you'll get overwhelmed, and I don't want to get overwhelmed. I want you to enjoy your time with your child, your daughter with you right now. Focus on that, because it is a long, lengthy process, and they'll drain you out. And at the moment, like Gary and we were all saying, that complaint procedure, it never finishes. It becomes the passing the buck along. Oh, it's too much for me. Pass it on, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. It's a mockery. It's a joke. So just be patient, and I'll get somebody for you to actually do that for you. Okay?
Okay, great. I'm going to drop out now. But again, thank you guys. You're all fantastic. What you're doing.
Thanks.
Keep up the hard work and stay blessed.
Thanks, Wendy.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Yeah, so Gary, just on what Wendy just mentioned, to what I've advised me, anything you want to add on for that particular topic?
No, I mean, just in general, really. I forgot to mention earlier, I should have said this as well. So the evidence is now showing that social workers and others around child cases are linked to these illegal entity companies. Some of them are, have their own companies. So this is a motive for them to be part of all of this that we're hearing from all of these individuals. So if we remove that motive, or compel a removal of that motive in that system and a new system, we remove the fuel, if you like, the incentive for these social workers to be getting money through this fraudulent criminal system linked to the taking of children. So I think that's very important to understand. And you also have barristers. I've got the evidence. There's a lot of barristers, judges, solicitors. Solicitors are a massive part of this. I mean, most of those actually have a shell company or their main company is illegal itself. And they're solicitors. They know the law. So they know exactly what they are part of.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. So I'm just going to mention about the solicitors only because somebody's mentioned about a solicitor. Now, I've been researching, going throughout the country. There's a lot of problems within the solicitors' firms, okay? I do 100% believe that not all of them are bad, okay? But if you get a solicitor within your own town and city against your local authorities, it's a waste of time. You need to look for one outside of the town. Okay, I have done a bit of research. I have got some solicitors who fit in that criteria. However, you know me, I can't guarantee what they could do and what they can't do. One thing I do know, they're not linked with the authority, because that's a big thing. Once they're actually doing some sort of trade with them, or in a simple way, you know, in social services, when you get involved, they'll give you a leaflet and saying, hey, you need to go and get legal help. Here's the solicitors. Well, everybody on that list is part of that problem. Okay, so you need to look for somebody who's not on that list. So I have found some. Sometimes it hasn't been the right person for the job, not the person for the job, or it hasn't gone right for the public member. But it's not something that I'm experiencing that. But I can get you two people, and I can get you linked with them. You'll have an hour free to have a conversation and chat with them. They do take legal aid and they do private as well. So that I'm just telling you that if you do want me to pass you to somebody, I just want you to have a look at it yourself, take your time with it. But I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you that. So if you do go on to that, send in information in the subject, just put, say, I need solicitors. I'll try to forward it on to the people who are coming forward. And these are solicitors firms who have actually reached out and said, we want to help. Okay, we are looking to take on more, so I want to keep it simple as that. Okay, thank you. UK immigration, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you have a question or a comment?
It's mixed because sometimes the question is not very straightforward.
Okay, is it for Gary or myself?
Both of them. To Gary, the question is, there are somehow somewhere incompetency within the police forces when the referral is made towards safeguarding to the police, and police arranges a meeting along with the local authority, social workers, NHS people, and they find that this is not safeguarding. This case does not fit into safeguarding. There are no safeguarding concerns. And then they close their police report, and then they give too much power to local authority to prepare another Section 47 safeguarding report. Why is that? Why police cannot just close the case and stamp that there are no safeguarding concerns? Why can they not do it?
Because sometimes I think you're going to get a mix of... I mean, obviously, I was only a frontline police officer, so I'm not a specialist in this type of thing. But from a frontline police officer perspective, we would generally go to whatever job we were going to, whatever incident. If there was any concerns regarding child welfare, we would fill out a form. Now, I left in 2018, so it may have changed, okay? But we used to fill out a referral form. For example, you know, I don't know if there was a suggestion that the house was unkempt in a way that was not healthy for a child, or there was an abuse concern, etc. We would fill out the form. If it wasn't something we would take action for there and then, it would then get referred through to social services eventually and other departments, and we wouldn't generally have any further involvement in it as a frontline officer again unless we went back to it. But you might, for example, find something in there that becomes relevant later. So they may close that initial report down. However, a further incident may provide further concerns for that child, and then they may then bring up that further report, that previous report, because it has something that may connect to it. So that's potentially why they would bring up a previous report that was submitted.
I'm going to add
Yeah,
on to
that's
that.
fine. The previous report you mentioned, and you mentioned ancillary factor which may be connected to the previous one. If this was the case, why then this cannot be dealt by the police officers instead of just putting into long care proceeding?
Right, let me just answer that so we don't go round and round. So you see, you mentioned, you got obviously Gary's input on that. With the police, they'll find no further action. Okay. Social services later will say, well, they don't believe the police and they think they accept what's happened. This is part of overruling. Okay, so the police don't have to do anything and the police don't really have the power. It's don't forget, it's no longer a police department, it's a corporate company. I want to behave like this, tell you straightforward. Where they should be taking that safeguard and do the investigation, no further action and close the case, that you shouldn't be able to use that information. They will actually, social workers will use that against you. It doesn't matter how far back you've gone. I've seen people where at the age of 19-year-old, they've been out on a night out, somebody's been had a little bit too much and attacked them to defend themselves. They've obviously attacked back. And later, 35-year-old later, or 35-year-old at that point, where they've settled down, they've had a child, they've used it against them that, look, he's been in domestic violence before in the past, and then they went in to steal their children. Okay, so this is the collusion. This is the system we're talking about. So these kind of questions, the system is corrupt. You need to know what we're going to do about it. Okay, and we need to stop the system. The system is running and operating fraudulently. Okay, so there's also what's known as the MASH team. If people don't know about it, the MASH team is police officers. For example, there's an agency within them where every time you go and register your children and get a birth certificate, it gives the husband or the man and the wife, okay? And what they do is they research anything, any dirt on either one of you historically. Even though you may have paid the price for it, you've done the time for it, and you're out and you're free, it will be used against you just to go and get your children. Okay, I hope that helps you on that question, UK immigrant.
Okay, so the second question was to make it simplified. When they call multi teams from all the professionals along with the parents, why they don't bring the NHS or GP people directly from NHS? So they do not bring the NHS people from the NHS services. Instead, they bring their own support worker and they connect them with the school staff and they pretend that they are going to be looking after the kids.
You've asked the question. Let me just answer the question. The question is very simple about this specific team that comes together. Well, they only want to get the people who are in control, that they are in control of, or part of the system, the systematica, the doctors that they like. If you got the independent ones, they're going to overrule it because they think freely. They're not going to deal with it. They'll expose them to say, hey, well, that's not true. For example, if you are not in domestic violence and you go and do something and they said, oh, no, you're in domestic violence, well, the medical department who knows the truth will speak up about it and say, no, that's not true, that is. So they'll get their own little group. Okay, so this particular group is set up from the beginning, which includes the police department. Okay, that blindly walks along with Scooby-Doo to do whatever they want them to do. So it's not a tangible, real group that's coming together. This is the thing. So, when you talk about other people, they're not going to get them involved because if they did, like I have evidence with this, anybody who spoke up would get sacked, removed, or sent on the sick, including other departments, whether it's CAMS, when it's your doctors, whether it's the advocacy, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this
because when they bring the credible people from NHS, they are responsible people. They won't lie, but they bring another incredible people into this proceeding so that they can be part of lying.
You're only repeating what I've just said. That's the answer. That's it. That's how it is. So if that was your question, I hope that helps you, because this is reality. It's a system that we need to work out how we're going to deal with these idiots and move forward with it, really. Okay.
All right.
If
Thank
I
you.
could get Sammy in. Sammy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Give me about 5 minutes, Rangi, and then I'll
No
come.
problem. No, that's all right. If anybody wants to ask another question, feel free to get yourself back in the box, because you can keep asking more questions. Rico, you've unmuted yourself. I presume you got a question for us or an input?
I was going to say to that lady that just spoke, it's been made to demoralise people. Nothing
Yeah.
makes sense. The NHS isn't run by good people. The NHS were complicit in they do care pathways where they're basically getting rid of old people. I mean, so, you know, we've got to get it off it. The whole system is designed so it doesn't do anything but sort them out. So she's asking for these sort of logical explanations. There's no logic to it, because it's clown world. We live in clown world. It's like it's just everything is just rotten. The whole system's rotten. But I believe it's rotten from the start. I think it was. It's just that the information's available to us to find out now. But I think if you look back at it, it was always designed for the ruling class. You know, that's how it always was. That's why they're destroying the middle class now, and it'll be the 1% or maybe less than that that run everything, and the only people left to be the serfs that are hanging on. That's it. So nothing makes sense. Everything. Has anyone tried ringing up a bank? Nothing works. If you want anything done, it's always wrong. You know.
Now you see,
they don't want intelligence. They want box tickers who are mediocre, that don't think outside the box. They don't want intelligent people. They want indoctrinated people. And that's what they do at schools. They indoctrinate. They don't teach. They indoctrinate to their group thinking and what they want. They don't want individuals with good ideas.
No, you're 100% right. You hit the nail on the head there when you said it doesn't make no sense. Okay, God Almighty tells you that anything that doesn't make no common sense, seek no other sense. If it doesn't make common sense, if it doesn't make sense, let it go over your head. Here, if you look at everything we're talking about with the authorities, it doesn't make sense because there's something wrong with it. We're just identifying what's wrong with it so we're not falling into the trap. So look, with Gary, everything he's talking about, it doesn't make no sense because it's running, operating illegally. Robbing, raping, stealing, it's a normal practice. So I'll give you one example. In the 60s, they were taking children of single mothers. They were saying, you should be married, because you're not, we're taking your children. Okay. Then in the 80s and 90s, they were saying that you should go out there and have children without being in marriage wedlock. And now they're taking children of single mothers saying, well, you don't have a partner, you can't look after the child, we're taking the child. So which one is it? You see? It's an entrapment. They change it as they seem fit. Okay? And we're going along with it. You've got to be transparent with these things. Stealing our children is not acceptable. And more importantly, allowing all these abuses on our children is not acceptable. And you don't comply to a criminal organization, criminality taking place in that organization, because it's not everyone. There are so many good social workers I've met, and in all fields. But every single one of them knows they get sacked, removed, or sent on the sick. And you know, I did have a call earlier this afternoon where I might just bring a social workers actually onto this platform so they could actually say who they are, what they're doing. You know what I mean? Fortunately the problem is, if they have children or they have grandchildren, they're going to be targeted immediately. Because that's how they silence people. Okay? They keep them quiet by using our children against them as a weapon. You know what I mean? It's a disgusting thing. Gary, do you want to add on to anything we just mentioned there? And Gary, are you there?
When we look at all of this, really, I mean, sorry.
I'm just going little boy's room.
Yeah, no worries. What is this, really? When we look at all this, we've got children being abused, murdered, tortured, obviously not in that order. We've got the public being defrauded. We've got all of us suffering financially through the taxation system. It's complete, utter, blatant corruption now, isn't it? Everywhere we're looking. There's only one word for it, and it's evil.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call it evil or whatever, I call it evil because to me it's not. It doesn't get much worse, does it? Really, than the things we're talking about, and it's because this is what is happening at the top. We have the people at the top of the governance of our nations that are literally involved in evil or whatever you want to call it, deliberately, I believe, and it is filtering down to all of us. And I think this is they're now actually doing and driving the planet into bringing the planet to its knees, really, effectively. And I think it's deliberate, and whatever. I mean, we won't go too much into the origin of all of this, but there's clearly something has gone very seriously wrong. These individuals would not steal from themselves, would they? Let's face it. Okay, and yet here they are stealing from everybody else. So they're not following their own inbuilt, whatever creator you believe gave this to us of, well, I wouldn't want that to happen to me, so I'm not going to be doing it to others. For some reason, these people don't have that value. And I can only describe that really as an evil value, an evil sort of inherent characteristic within them, however you feel that got there. So, this is so blatant now. We are certainly coming to a time where there's only one of two ways this is going to go, isn't there? I believe if enough people stand up to this in the right way, then we can change this world massively in a better way forever, I believe. But we are literally on the precipice of going in the opposite direction of that. And I believe, I'm very hopeful with how this is going to lead. I mean, we've only got to look at all of this evidence coming to light from myself and others. There's got to be a reason why all of this overwhelming evidence is being presented to the world, and it's being able to, I shouldn't be here for starters. I shouldn't be able to be doing this. I should have been taken out a long time ago, but for some reason I'm still here presenting this evidence and trying to bring the world back to transparency and trust and no victimization at all. There's no reason whatsoever that there can't be complete equality across the world now, no matter what people's faith group, ethnicity, culture, background, age, sex or color. There is the technology to ensure that equality and fairness financially and in produce, etc., can be there for the whole world. But unfortunately, they've based the whole system on deception. Deception, the opposite from truth. The opposite from, I'm not going to get too religious, but what I believe God is, truth. So they've gone far away from anything outside of their own controlling, manipulative system. And I feel, and a lot of people won't understand me when I say this, I feel incredibly sorry for these people because they are so lost. They are so lost. And there will be people who are part of this. Maybe they're just part of the fraud and wasn't part of the child trafficking. And they will be feeling an incredible burden of what are we part of? What have we done? And I guarantee you a lot of them will want out of this. Certainly if they're not part of the most sinister side of all of this. And it is sinister. I mean, the adrenochrome side of things is, I was chatting to some people actually and some comments on the last interview. People didn't know what adrenochrome harvesting was, so I'll tell you, just in case you're not aware. And forgive me if it upsets you. But it's when a child or any person, in fact, is terrified to such an extent their adrenal glands drain into their bloodstream. Okay. And these people, some of these people, believe that when that happens, by drinking that blood, it can extend their life, it can rejuvenate them, but also it's the evidence suggests it is incredibly addictive. Some people say more addictive than heroin. And I was in the police for 18 years, and I know full well the damage that heroin does and how addictive that is. So if adrenochrome is worse. And that, I think, is a huge motive in all of this, is the adrenochrome. It's the most lucrative substance on the planet. the document that you can look at in my public document file, which I believe is an authentic document, which was an apparent leaked German letter with a table attached, shows that per milligram of one particular type of blood is $1,920 per milligram. You know, and we've got it coming out all over, haven't we, at the moment in Hollywood, with potential links being made to adrenochrome. There's some Hollywood stars are actively talking about drinking blood. You know, this is horrendous, and they want this type of thing normalized. We can't allow that. And very fortunately, at the moment, there are way more innocent people in this still alive than those involved in this. So that means we have a chance and an opportunity to turn this around. And I think they're panicking so much that this is why we've seen the vaccine, which ties into all of this, the vaccines and the COVID and the potential threat from radiation integrated into our mobile communication systems, which does appear to be a huge risk to us all and tied into pooled pension funds. So I've got the evidence that even there's a royal pooled pension fund company linked very closely through to directed energy weapons companies. Now, of course, if they do remove millions of people, then those unclaimed pension funds are there for the taking with this system of fraud. The directed energy weapons companies, namely, I believe it was Thales, that was creating an actual directed energy weapon with BAE Systems around the time of Nicola Bulley's death, and Nicola Bulley's husband worked for BAE Systems, is linked immediately to the Nightingale beds. And obviously we know, hopefully you'll know, that the Nightingale hospitals were set up specifically, supposedly, so we're led to believe, for the COVID outbreak, and they were never used. And of course, the Nightingale hospital companies are linked to this system of fraud. So are the vaccine companies. In fact, AstraZeneca UK Limited was incorporated with the same two companies that started Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, Swift Incorporations Limited and Jordan's Limited. The same two companies that incorporated the company that I was a director for, and where I acquired forged bank documents and was removed as a director for refusing to use those documents to file our bank accounts. And AstraZeneca UK Limited is linked to the same companies. In fact, Andrew Bridgen, who has been speaking out supposedly about the vaccines, also has a company that links to Swift Incorporations Limited and Jordan's Limited, the very same company that started up AstraZeneca UK that Andrew Bridgen is supposedly speaking out about now. But he's not willing to discuss the evidence, the very clear evidence linking this fraud to the vaccines, to the child trafficking, to the threat to mankind from the directed energy threat within the mobile telecommunication systems. It's all connected. This is all linked, and the fraud is the connection. And it's a huge motive in all of this. The only way, I believe, is to remove that system, to stop that fraud. And I think you will see that all of these other concerns and issues will be massively reduced, massively, because you haven't got the incentive of the money laundering through that system. And it's also linked to, which something I haven't touched on because I've only recently found the evidence, this system of fraud also links the police very, very closely to what appears to be potentially international drug trafficking. Okay, so, you know, all of these problems that we're seeing, they're actually being actively linked to the organisations that should be preventing it. Even the, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. I don't know how to activate other people to talk unless someone can talk now, can they? Because Rangi's gone. I'll just keep talking. I'm sorry if I'm boring you. I'll keep going until Rangi gets back. But even the rehabilitation centres, one, for example, in Bournemouth, drugs and alcohol. But of course, if they're linked to this fraud, that gives the ability to say to the public, well, we have a huge drugs problem and alcohol problem. Let's pump more tax contributions through into the rehabilitation and defraud the general public through these illegal entities with the banks forging the accounts for them. It's huge. Even the health service, the NHS, is part of this fraud. And why is that? Because they're manufacturing most of the health problems that we're all suffering.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe cancer was deliberately introduced by these evil people.
Yeah.
Because if you imagine they produce the problem, they come up with the answer, but it benefits them because you then can justify or try to persuade the public to agree to pump more tax contributions in to the healthcare system, for example, to try and cure cancer, but really they defraud the general public through that system.
Absolutely. Yeah, and also, sorry, Gary. Also, I'd say that I'm an anti-vaxxer, right? Because people say, "Oh, what about polio?" Well, polio was a lot of the cases were going down because of our hygiene anyway. It was after the polio jab that the cancer rates started coming, and when I was at school, autism was like rare, and now there's so many children with it because they're all getting it from all the loaded with these vaccines. I can tell you, in America, there's a fund set up for to stop parents who have children damaged by vaccines going to court. The pharmaceuticals will pay these families money before it gets to that stage to keep it out of the court system where people. And the biggest ever fraud case, money-wise, was taken against Pfizer for one of their things they did a while back. But the thing is, these companies make so many billion. If they get a fine of say 4 billion, but they've made 8 billion, it doesn't matter. So they'll do it anyway. It's what people don't realise. Big pharmaceutical companies are wicked. They're wicked. They're evil people, and it's like, you know, it's so obvious. But people. I mean, the first father of the vaccine was called Dr. Jenner, and he was injecting his own children with the cowpox, wasn't he? Back in the day, he was a Jesuit. I'm going to go into this a bit now. I'll only be quick, but Freemasonry is controlled by the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order controlled this system under Lucifer himself. Like, take Jimmy Savile, it's Papal Knight. Rupert Murdoch, Papal Knight. The Rothschilds, Papal Knight. Even the Queen was a Dame of Malta. She couldn't enter the City of London with any of her royal costume on. And to go into the City of London, the square mile, she had to ask permission, because you've got three areas. You've got the spirituals, the Vatican, the City of London is the financial, and the District of Columbia in America is the military. There's three sovereign mini states, and that's why they got to be broken. We have to disband the Jesuit order, expel them, and stop the Freemason lodges. We've got to do that because they've infiltrated so much. They really have, and it's like everywhere you turn, there's one of them at the top. And then we had Edward Heath. I mean, he was a terrible paedophile. Everyone knew about that. But see, there's an organisation called Dachau DVD, Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. These people have infiltrated the police, Thames Valley Police, SAAT. This Dachau DVD is the continuation of the Nazi Fourth Reich, and they controlled everything. They went over to Operation Paperclip to Russia and America. They started NASA. Werner von Braun, the father of the Saturn rocket program, they're all Nazis. This is how crazy it is. You know, it's like, what was I going to say? Yeah, so, yeah, basically, like, I mean, and then it goes back, look, just moves quickly. Sherry Blair, who is a real staunch, hardcore Roman Catholic, her great uncle was John Wilkes Booth, who was the one that tried to shoot, who shot dead Abraham Lincoln for trying to bring out his own currency of greenbacks so he could cut out the central banks. It's the same people run everything. People.
You're totally right. I mean, the issue is all one. It's all about good against evil, isn't it? Right. Yeah. And this is the whole point of what we're doing. You need to identify the evil, who's involved. But we can't obviously say it's everybody. But for these people, the evil, all the public are the wrong ones. They want to just get rid of us, okay, to get control of us, which is no good. I'm just going to go to Sammy because I know she wanted a few minutes. Sorry about that, Sammy. Took a bit longer, but did you have a question or comment that you wanted to ask me or Gary? Feel free, please.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Thanks, Rangi. What I wanted to say was I just wanted to ask Gary. We spoke about this yesterday, Rangi, didn't we? You know, about how corrupt it is from top to bottom. Because what I found was solicitors won't get involved because they turn around and say it's conflict of interest, because all the experienced solicitors had been taken up by, the council, the police, the NHS, they use them. And what you're left with is the inexperienced solicitors who have no experience in tackling this kind of issue. And so, when they get involved and they talk to these organisations, solicitors, they get battered down, and so, you can't really do anything about that. Is that your experience, Gary or Rangi? What I just wanted to ask that, really.
Now, I'm going to actually get Gary to answer it first, but, we spoke about this yesterday, and I'm very clear with everything else that I mentioned yesterday. And all this, what I mentioned, everything you want to know, you want evidence, we'll show you it. But with your specific question, I'm going to let Gary go first. Gary?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it looks as though I suspect the whole legal system has been set up around this system of fraud. Right back when Companies House was created in 1844, I think they had the idea to set up the police. And somebody else mentioned earlier the military need to get involved in this. The military are involved in this, all right? They're part of the problem. I've got the evidence to show. Of course, not all military, but the trouble we've got is the heads of these organisations are all so deep in this. Literally, it's really bad. So, first of all, who oversees the legal system? It's the Crown, isn't it? Who's at the head of this? Or certainly a big part of it, the Crown. So there you go. We've immediately got a huge problem because the Crown will not expose itself for its own system. So that is why ultimately this isn't going to be resolved by the legal system, unfortunately. It won't work. Because you're asking them to commit suicide against themselves and to punish themselves. It won't happen.
No, you're right. So I'm just going to add on with that. Also, it'll help towards the comment that's just come in as well. It's not the military. Now, look, I have been speaking to military personnel myself, and it's been going on for the last few years, constantly in contact with them. There is a problem. Fortunately, they tied up kind of thing. However, they're not staying silent neither, but like everything else, social workers, we don't believe it's every social worker, not every police officer. We know that it's not all the military, but we do know there are fragments of the military who have been looking the other way while this atrocity has been taking place. We know this, and we know this as facts in such a way that we got military out into the world fighting a war while their own children back home are getting robbed. So where they're going out to defend their nation, the nation is being abused by their own authorities. So this is a message that really needs to go out to every military so they know to defend our nation, they need to get off their rear, put it in gear and get back home. We have problems here. You can't defend your nation when we're abusing ourselves. Okay? But we do agree that it's not everybody. I totally agree with that. I hope that answers the question for that side of it. I do have the one who got away. If you could just unmute yourself, please, if you had a question for maybe Gary or myself.
Hi, good evening to everyone. I just don't know where to start and where to finish, really. I'm not even sure if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. My daughter she was in normal school for up to 7-8 years. Then we've been pushed to put her in a specialist school, and up to last year she been there, up to December more specifically. So she been sexualized in the school, and based on this we find out kind of too late There's too many things to tell you. Based on that, we took her out of the school. Now she been on safeguarding by the school. I really don't know what is going on next. I understand it's going to be a massive investigation and stuff, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't trust no one after what happened to my daughter in school, and also learn to happen to other children too, and everyone just covering up.
Yeah, you just mentioned there that did he say that somebody's doing an investigation?
Police.
You know, I mean, the only thing I'm going to say with that is I don't think they know how to do an investigation. I mean, if they actually did a proper investigation, independent, and I know they do some good investigations, but I'm just praying that they actually do it. Because when you've got people within themselves working within the corporate companies, there's a lot of letdowns. I found that myself. And we could just try to cross our fingers. Hopefully they do the right job. But Gary, I want you to actually answer that if you don't mind.
Sorry, what in relation
I truly need help in order not to lose my kids. I feel like this is where it's going, and this is what the school tried to do to me, and I feel that's the situation. Yeah.
Is your children with you, or have they got the children?
Oh, it's with me and the husband.
Okay, well, that's a sigh of relief. That's a good thing. But Gary, what she was saying that they obviously supposed to be doing an investigation, major problems, but just with the investigation, and it's the police. I mean, because you're a former police officer, maybe you could add a bit of light to that. What should happen, what shouldn't happen, and how far it's going to go, and what the problems are within the problems in the law enforcement, shall we say?
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's an investigation and it risks exposing the corruption within their system, obviously there's a conflict of interest there, isn't there, in all of this? So they're going to try and cover up and hide any sort of connection there. When did you last have contact with the police?
This week, 2 days ago.
Okay, and what
they
was
went to our house. They went to our house. They talked with our daughter. They was interested. Every social service and the police. They was all interested of what my daughter got to say, and also they're going to interview her next week in the police station with the policewoman and somebody else. And the lady says we're not allowed to stay with our daughter. So I want to also know if this legal, or is allowed a parent to be there to stay, because she's underage kind of thing. Is this allowed?
Well, I think they can only really do that if they've got justification of a concern for you to be there. No, I mean, there's certainly nothing in place preventing you in terms of any conditions preventing you from being involved in any way, is there?
She says I am a kind of witness because she told me all the allegations about the teachers.
Right, so they're saying it's a conflict of interest if you were there to listen to what they were saying.
I don't know what they doing and what they're trying to do. I never been through this before, and I just feel like everyone is involved for whatever reason. It's not for my daughter's best interest.
Yeah. Well, obviously, in any investigation, the police should always sanitise evidence as best as they can. So, obviously, it's difficult with a child, but they want to ensure there's no cross-contamination, if you like, of evidence and information being leaked and that affecting the investigation. So they do have to try and sanitise accounts from individuals and people. Of course, there will be some sort of recording made of their discussion with your child. So at some point, that will be presented if there is a legal process, in which case the content should be available to be heard by those in the legal process, which presumably you'll be part of if it comes to that.
The only thing I'm going to add on to you there, anytime you have any form of interactions with them, get a phone, body cam, whatever it is, document everything, record everything, remain calm, listen to what they've got to say, and deal with it appropriately, okay? Because the problem is that I find is when there's nothing that's happened, no concerns what's happened, when they leave, they just manufacture the concerns. So this is where the problem is. The police will come in, they won't find no concerns. They'll report no concerns. But social workers will say there was consent. And by the time you then do your SAR request and go against it, because this is about manufacturing concerns, by the time you've gone through that, they've already taken your child, the coercive control is going on, the alienation is going on, they're committing perjury against your child. This is what they're doing with children behind the scenes. And then you've got to find a legal team who's actually going to do the damn job right, who's going to do the investigation, get your SAR request, get everything in, and challenge it. You see, and say, look, this is not in the police report. Where did you get this from? You see, this is the problem that we have. But whatever you do, safeguard yourself, document, record everything. Whether it's school teachers, and that doesn't mean that a school teacher may be bad or the police officers is bad. It's just for your protection.
John, I agree.
Because at the end of the day, you're not doing anything wrong apart from protecting yourself. That's all you're doing. Okay, but you will find that evidence as time goes on. You'll see the whole pattern. You'll see every single thing about them, and it'll be game over. It's a case of what are they going to do next. You understand? So I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah, in a way, yes. Many things.
Well, what I'm not gonna. I don't need to say too much because I can see you're in the middle of the situation. So on public media, I'm glad you've got obviously other names on there than your own. So keep it separate. If there's something that I could maybe get through to somebody for you to get you some help and support, or if I know what this. Actually, there's somebody in the comments. Always mind. If anybody wants a bit of guidance, if you could contact that person. Everything that we're doing behind the scenes, it's actually made available for the person. So that person will contact you if there's any form of resources that we have to get you through to somebody, or if there's other links that we have within the town and cities that you're in. Instead of mentioning it on here, go through that person, send her a little follow and a message, and she will get back to you. Okay?
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. Just go straight into Coffee Cup. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry, before Coffee Cup, Marion. Marion, can you hear me? Marion? Can you hear me?
Hi, Marion.
Marion, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did you have a comment or question for... Oh, get yourself back on. I don't know what's happened. The system does this sometimes. Just rejoin back in. Just go straight to Coffee Cup. Coffee Cup, can you hear me?
Yeah, Andrew, can hear you.
Hello, mate. Did you have a question for Gary or myself, please?
Not at this moment. It's for a bit of advice for the one that got away. Everybody's entitled to legal representation and all that, as we know. But my advice is get an appointed advocate for your daughter.
Yeah, I agree. That's another way of doing it. And actually, simultaneously, I'm glad you brought that up. You should do everything. You should get mediation involved, another advocate involved for your child separate as well, and give them a voice.
And refuse any interview until the advocate's appointed.
Even
so
on
much
that
more to learn.
No, that's good. Even on that note, if you contact this person here, always mind we'll find somebody for you, and you could actually be the advocate within the family itself, actually. But if they're not going to play a ball club, for example, we'll try to find somebody within your local area, because there is loads of people like NIAS. NIAS is another organisation that you can reach out. They're there for children and be an advocate for the children. Okay?
Thank you so much. I'll write everything down.
No, that's all right. But if you want to chat, by all means, feel free to contact Always Mind. She'll give you the information, or we'll find the information for you, because I know how overwhelming it can be. Coffee cup, well done there. It's that's what you need, because there's more advice, the better. You know what I mean? Now, we do have another half an hour left. So, you know, in general, with everything that's been going on this evening, we will make that available. And I believe that we are going to be back on live tomorrow. I'm just going to confirm it in front of everybody. Gary, are you going to be available tomorrow?
Yeah, that's fine. No problem at all.
Brilliant. So tomorrow, 8 o'clock onwards, will be the very same thing. So you'll be able to ask any questions, anything to do with what we've been talking about today, anything on top of that, anything what Gary's been mentioning. And besides, I'm going to make something for what Gary's been talking about, and I'm going to make one of these relating to what he's talking about. So then I could pull this off and have another one there as well. So we can swap and change. So it'll be ideal. Coffee cup, did you have any other question yourself, young man?
No.
Marion, did you manage to get yourself back into the box, or if you wanted to get in, feel free to do so. But Gary, if I hand it back over to you, because obviously I did miss a little bit earlier on, just in case you wanted to maybe add on to anything else that you were saying.
Yeah, I just want to do a very quick summary for anyone that's new here. And just, there's people asking in the comments, especially when I said, you know, the Crown oversee the legal system and they're not going to expose themselves. People are asking, well, what do we do? So I'm just going to sort of cover that a little bit briefly again. So what we're looking at here is international government fraud. Okay, international, it's really that is that wide ranging, and it is facilitating child abuse, trafficking, pretty much all of the problems that we're seeing around the world, deliberately facilitating it. So we're in a very enlightening time, the fact that we now know what they've been doing and how they've been doing it, but it's also a very difficult time in how this is going to move forward and the transition into whatever needs to happen. Now, ultimately, I believe that this is going to be something that only the people can resolve, because the legal system is actually run by those running the criminal system. So that's the problem we've got. So therefore, how do the people do it? Well, the most important thing is that we unite. They've been trying to divide us. This is a great example tonight. You know, Rangi is here. He's a Muslim. I'm here. I'm a Christian. We are standing shoulder to shoulder against the problem, because we now realize the common enemy against all humanity is the system and those that control it. They've been trying to, I mean, there's lots of information. Someone said earlier, and you're absolutely right, I believe the Mazzini letter, or the letter by Albert Pike, the Freemason, towards Mazzini, who was the head of the Illuminatis in the 18-something, appears to have set out a plan for the three world wars, and it certainly looks like that they're playing out World War III now, and part of that is to create a war between faith groups. Rangi and I are showing we're going to let that happen. All right, we're going to stand together. We're going to unite for the future of our children collectively. So how do we do it? Well, the people have to do it, I believe. And we need an overriding collective strategy. And I believe that needs to be peaceful non-compliance by the masses to compel an essential change in the system, to a transparent, truthful system where we can become the auditors of that system, the auditor of the finances, to ensure we know where our money is being spent and we're not paying for the murder, abuse and torture of children. We need to come together collectively in local communities, share this evidence. It's so important. Talk to people about it. Don't be afraid. Even if you get knocked back, we're talking about children's lives here. You have to persist. My goodness me, if I'd have given up, I've gone against everything. I've gone against every shareholder in my company at the beginning. I've gone against my own police force. I've gone against the Independent Office for Police Conduct. I've gone against the Serious Fraud Office, the government, everyone. And I, as a single person, have created huge waves. If we come collectively together over this, it will, I promise you, it will change the world forever. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. So get together with your communities. Knock on doors. Don't be afraid to talk about this. Ease people into it if you can, because it's a lot to take on. It's a lot for people to take on, to realise they've been lied to their entire lives, and everything is pretty much an inversion. So, I'll give you a couple of examples in the companies I've come across. You've got companies called Fair. What was it? Fair Trial Limited. Now, these people like to use inversions. This was linked to the legal system. In other words, unfair trial. Okay? There's a company called De-Extinction Limited. Okay? I'll lead you to believe what that may be. We are looking at a very potentially dangerous time for us all moving forward. And these people involved in this need to realise what is at stake for them. If they continue with this, they need to realise they are, I believe, in eternal risk, whether you have that belief or not. I think they'll be looking at all of this and potentially starting to think, wow, you know, look at all these people coming together with the evidence of what we've been doing. What do we do? And it's written within their documents. Okay, they even wrote it. They put, there's a couple of documents, but the silent weapons of quiet wars is within my public document file. They even said that when the people find out what we really have been doing, it's over. We're at that time, people. We are literally at that time. We just need to get enough of us. There's 53,000 people listening to this now. We need to get enough of us to see the truth and stand shoulder to shoulder, because we're talking about a very small number of people here overall, and that's why they want us to fight against ourselves.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to add on. Look, how we're going to move forward is actually share the information. Anybody who wants any form of clarity, look, very simple. Same thing I've been saying for the last 4 years. And in 4 years, 100% success rate. And that includes detectives, MI5, safeguarding teams, social workers, the lot, and every public member. Okay? The bent ones, we can't do nothing about that, whether it's in the authorities or the people in the public. Because there's some people, even though it's in front of you, they don't want to know. For whatever reason. But the masses needs to wake up. And I will tell you, I mean, for example, this year I did a particular tour for 30 days. In that 30 days, I actually reached out to over 500,000 people. I made myself available in every single town and city for 30 days. But everybody could do that today. No, you could either share the contents, the information from Gary or myself or anybody. This is not about me and Gary. This is about collective work. So there's other people who are doing the very beautiful work as well. I also support them as well, because it's all one. We need to come together, regardless of colour, creed, religion. You mentioned 2 faiths there, Gary did. Yet we have the Sikh community coming forward as well. Every community is coming together, because once you see the evidence, it's game over. And the majority of people are awakening. That's one thing I can tell you. What they're actually looking for today, we're looking for leaders. I am personally bringing this out. Okay, because you would say the sheep is waking up, the flock is waking up, but they need to be led. The problem is, with this being a systematic attack, and not just in one town and cities, throughout the whole damn nation, we need people to wake up in every town and city. So I mentioned earlier on, for example, Birmingham. It's a plague there. But the more people that speak up, for example, that's an example. I mean, yet there's still people coming forward. At least it's our job to start putting you together, to work as a team, collectively, and then you can start sharing more information. And when it comes to like lectures and things like that, we will arrange something for you if you want, or you arrange it and we'll just turn up. Or you might even have, and really what I want to do is I want to duplicate everything what Gary's doing and duplicate everything with what I'm saying and what I'm doing. Because the more we duplicate, the more manpower we have, or woman power, or you know what I mean, to get out there and get the job done to wake the rest up. Some people seeing they're still not going to do anything, but it's the majority that will wake up and are waking up. We are at a point where the public is awake in the masses. Now it's a case of putting them all together. Regardless, and let me tell you something, through my experience, there's a lot of great parents out there. Sometimes they fall out with each other and things like that. This is because of the stress they're going through. I don't blame anybody. It's just you need to be strong enough to keep moving forward, because in my heart, all I care about is your children need to be back home where they're safe. It's only a small percentage of cases, shall we say, where children need to be in care. But they've exploited it. It's all about the new Tony Blair bollocks, future risk of emotional harm. So let me show you exactly what I'm doing personally. They steal your children on future risk of emotional harm, and then they create that problem. Today, throughout the whole country, you'll get evidence from every town and city where children go into the care and the first thing they're going through is emotional abuse. So under that flag, cease contact with this corporate company, because there's over 80% factual evidence that they'll go through minimum emotional abuse. So they crystal ball with nothing, and with fact findings that you're going to find now, why are you working with them? You could start stopping that. And then obviously we could talk more about how we're going to combat this, because once you have this information, what's happening, stop paying your taxes. Why are you paying taxes? Because what you're doing, you're funding them. They're going to keep stealing money. And they don't even want to resolve this. You see, to resolve things, you need to have a rational conversation. And, you know, we would want them to change. And what I personally want them to change to fix this problem is stop being liars, stop being criminals, stop being storytellers. But they'll say, oh no, lessons learned. What do you mean lessons learned? And they're still doing the same thing. So this is very, very important that people start coming together, because that's a big thing that they're very, very worried about, very scared about. Because if they know everybody comes together, they can't control us. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean any form of violence. That means you don't need to comply with them. And we can show them evidence. And you only really need one case. And right now you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cases throughout the country of everything to do with what I'm talking about, whether it's Peterlee, Hartlepool, Manchester, Rochdale, London, Isle of Wight, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. You name it, you tell me where you are and I'll send you information towards people that you go and have a look yourself. And people are reaching out in every corner of the country today. And not even just here. So if the people internationally wise, look, if you're in America, there's people reaching out. Canada, Sweden, Denmark, France, Germany, Australia. You name it, come forward, we'll share the information. South Africa, share the information. It's happening. And look, one child, we are that nation, I remember. Back in the days, one child used to go through some sort of atrocity in some other part of the world, and we would stand up as a nation together. And yet it's happening to tens of thousands of our children on a monthly basis. What are we doing? So it's game over. I am going to ask Gary to add, if he wants to add on anything to with what I've said. If there's anybody that wants to ask questions, you need to request, because we've only got 20 minutes. We will be back on tomorrow. Gary,
there's a few things actually that I've just thought about saying, which I should have maybe mentioned a little bit earlier. First of all, I haven't said it during this time, this interview. People need to realise how significant this is. And I think one of the biggest things that's happened during my exposure is within 3 days of me sending the evidence to the World Economic Forum, to NATO, the FBI and the World Health Organization, the chair of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, resigned 3 days after receiving that evidence. That is how significant this is. I don't believe that was a coincidence at all. The other thing which I'd like to mention is any of you that are football fans out there, you really need to be aware of the football industry and how significant that is with all of this. And that's because pretty much every large football club that I've looked at is an illegal entity company. It's a fraudulent organisation. We're talking Manchester United. They're fraudulent. Okay. And that will be because they're using the football clubs to launder money through, and the links of the there will be many of you. You need to get on board regarding this, because I can show you all of the evidence. The football clubs are illegal, and they will have the facility to launder money in relation to child trafficking through those football organisations. Okay, please get on board with this. The other thing in relation to the football is, can you remember what year the Hillsborough disaster was? Was it 1989?
Yeah.
1989. Okay, I've done some research into that. Okay, so you had the disaster in 1989. They investigated it in 2012. It was the most expensive criminal investigation in the history of the UK. Guess what? They set up illegal entity companies as part of that investigation. That would have very likely been there to have laundered money through in relation to that investigation from tax contributions and defraud the general public. Now, we have to consider, with this amount of evil, and I think we all know what happened at the Hillsborough disaster. I think certain gates were not opened by the police, okay, to allow people out of that stadium. I'm not going to say any more than that, but you know what I'm having to consider with this. That's how evil I think we are talking about things here. So I think the public have been defrauded in relation to that investigation. The other thing you all need to be aware of is Tommy Robinson. Okay, Tommy Robinson has a previous, another name of Stephen Laxley. Oh, I've forgotten it. Most of you will know it. Pardon?
Lennon.
Yeah. Okay, under that name, he is linked to this system of fraud to a company called D&D Law Agency. That company is very significantly connected to the fraud. It links to the directed energy weapons. Okay. Now, I've got all of this documented, everything I'm telling you, so I know you're going to have some Tommy fans. Just hear me out. Before I knew this, I tried to get Tommy to help me expose this evidence. Bearing in mind, he's talking about police corruption and government corruption, exactly what I'm identifying. So I put a lot of effort into getting in contact with him. I've got an email to confirm he has my mobile number. I've never heard from him, ever. Bearing in mind, you've got a former police officer with overwhelming evidence of police corruption, government corruption. Tommy Robinson appears to be part of the problem, I'm afraid, unfortunately. Now, I suspect that is part of the, if you look at the World War III part of the letter written by, forgive me, Albert Pike to Mazzini, I suspect this is all what we're seeing play out as part of this, to create a conflict between faith groups to divert the attention away from the real issue of the system and those that control it. I think everyone just needs to realise that we're being deceived in so many ways, and you just need to consider that. And of course, who is it that, of course, the other thing we need to consider, and I don't think I've told you on the interview before, the directed energy systems, for those of you that don't know about MK Ultra, it's a real thing. I suggest you go and look at it. MK Ultra is a form of mind control through pharmaceuticals, subliminal messages, television, etc., music, but also through radiation, including, I believe, in the mobile communication systems in place. At the end of 2023, on the government website, they stated they're pumping loads of money into new 5G technology to put them in stadiums and tourist hotspots. So think about...
Can I ask you? Gary, hello, it's me, Claire.
Yeah, just 1 second. Gary, sorry, finish off.
So think about this. We've got people linked, drawing large crowds from stadiums. A lot of football fans, okay, are following certain individuals into locations where they are now putting potentially more harmful directed energy systems, and potentially the ability for, because the MK Ultra, when you look at it, and I do urge you to go and look at it, don't just believe me on this, it has the ability, according to the research, to make people do things they wouldn't normally, to react in a way they wouldn't normally. The police and military radio systems are connected to this system of fraud, and the radiation threat is also real to them as well. So I believe they have the ability to make the police act in a way they wouldn't normally, and also crowds to react, and even individuals, if they're directed personally with this technology, in a way that they wouldn't normally do. So I just think everyone needs to consider all of that information.
Can I just say? Can I just say? I think that's Gary's right. I think that the towers they go hand in hand with the vaccines, with all the graphene oxide and all the and all the technology inside those vaccines. I actually think that people will become, sooner or later, the people that do continue with these vaccines will end up being given thoughts through these cell phone towers to say, kill the Christians, kill the Muslims, and they will do it, and they won't even have their own. That's how crazy this is. It's like people don't realise how
it's more advanced. Can I just add? Hello, Gary. It's me, Claire. I'm on my backup account. It's more what is saying everything is 100% correct. I've been in K Ultra since a child, and my whole family. So I've linked up with Gary on the other channel and Telegram group. So why they need the kids? Everything you said is the Jews, DEWS, trauma-based mind control program began 1940s in Germany by CIA funding that and brought scientists over to America. It went dark. It's military black ops. It's funded by all countries involved. What the subjects Gary's covered today is all linked together. The end game, the bigger picture, is total. With the what it's called is quantum technology now, and it's supercomputers, hive mind. That's why we need a Neuralink and 5G or 6G now. And it's going to be linking up the human brain is a new battlefield where they've got like AI technology extremely advanced now. It's where, like Gary said, and others and other platforms are. I mean, I've been trying to raise awareness for years, and many people out there, what is known as target individuals, we are singled out and we're put on a watch list. What's known as domestic terrorists, but we're not. We've never done anything unlawful to anybody. It's great that you're ex-police, by the way, Gary, and you're coming out with your evidence. It's brilliant because I've been set up by the police loads of times. I was a victim of a horrific crime 2002, run over 2009, and now I'm disabled. So as a former model and journalist, I was in the public eye years ago. I got out of the public eye and what I was involved with because what I saw, what they did to the kids and who's involved. These are high players in England. I wanted to blow the lid on all the names. Every time I tried, I got death threats and all this crap going on. And it's still going on. What you're saying about big pharmaceutical corporations interlinked is 100% correct. When you're also targeted, you get the psychological tactics of, again, stalking. Where you mention about exposing, basically reference to the children, what you've been doing for so long on this channel, is 100% spot on, everybody. And yeah, now's the time for we take back the power and know what technology. I'm a survivor of so much, and I go through EMF radiation, the marks on my body, the torture. I go through sleep deprivation. It's where they do you're not really asleep with the brain. The body is meant to be asleep, so I focus on more of natural remedies and try to get solutions for the mind, body and soul connection, not mainstream religion, but mainly to help basically solution based for what I've witnessed firsthand, what my whole family's witnessed. I've got adult son and daughter and grandkids, they're going through it too. But you have to be careful what you say, because the end game for all this, if you speak out too much, they will try the mental health card and discredit you big time. I've studied law on top since 2012, so I've now been advanced in what I know in that knowledge. So I can do so much in certain areas, and at the same time, one has to help oneself, then see what you can process further. Because without your own help, you can't help somebody else. So I just wanted to just back up what Gary's saying and other people maybe coming through, because as a survivor, we've never been able to talk freely. All communications are definitely monitored. So, for example, this is the miracle I can be connected on my Wi-Fi, because I will not name and shame anybody or like names I know. And when I mixed with, when I got into the papers for the only survivor of this serial killer, right, they got me back into the press, right? So I just turned it around and used it to my advantage, really. But it's still, when I'm connected to people from Israel, all different countries on Discord, my ex-moderators when I used to do radio shows, they're sending me, well, not as much now because of the communication problem, but what they sent me was the Israel intelligence are very much connected with the bigger picture. That's what I'm pretty able to say here. And I'm sure, Gary, you're going to come out with your documents more easier than I. There is beginning stages. Everyone is not the same in the targeted program, the mind control, then K ultra trauma based. The Manchurian candidate is 100% correct. That was a long time ago. We're now in extremely advanced technology, so our thoughts is literally not our own, and it's very more important to look at. Shall I just put it simplistically, really, in the soul, the spirit, the soul. And trying to keep focused best we can, because they will mess about. If they want somebody to create, like, some kind of serious event, and I have to put an edge for now on, okay, for everyone's protection here in mind, they can easily do that. I try to help people with the voice of skull technology. It's like they would try and apply, no disrespect to people with psychological, trauma or issues. But with a voice of skull technology, it's like you're talking to 2 or 3 people. And what they do, they have to get the children at a young age to split the mind. They have to create so much trauma in that child at the age of 3 years of age up to 4. And I've got a book, it's dated 2003, because Selby talks. She talks about as a child when she was in a cage in the dumps. It's military underground bases. And she escaped. And when she was 20 to 23, she wrote a book. I've got the PDF. Gary, I'll try and see if I can get a link over to, or a screenshot, to show you how the basic program works with Illuminati everywhere worldwide.
Thank you.
Yeah, because then you understand the Illuminati. So why it was created in 1776, infiltrated Freemasonry. So I was married to a Mason once. So it's like, I was anti-Freemasonry originally because of my experiences. But it's not, ordinary members at certain levels don't know what's going on at the top level, put it that way. And when it's been infiltrated since 1776, now here we are, your parents, grandparents of history, maybe your members, it's nothing. This is what I got wrong. I was blaming Freemasonry originally, okay, generalising it, but no. It's much more intelligence-based, military-based, higher than that, and what we're dealing with. So it's understanding the technology, how it affects the brain. This is what I'm studying now in the neurocortex of the brain, neurocortex, neuromonitoring. What they're bringing out now is the patterns which are just released about four days ago, is to do with the biomedical data. So everything they're doing with food, water, air, basically is getting into our human bodies. And that is just basically another way to get into the bloodstream, to get into the brain barrier. And when it gets into the brain barrier, and that is where they can manipulate with the nanobots are so minute. And once they mess about, they create the diseases, your Alzheimer's disease, and all these others. And then the big four corporations, pharmaceutical corporations, can make their mint, you know. And so it's basically data mining. The reason why I use like a software, well, I can't do anymore because my computer's hacked, Wireshark. Anyone look into your computers, if you can download that software, you'll see whether or not you're on their system as monitoring you. And you're not a heavy target, you might be just a soft target. If you're in one like Gary and many others trying to expose what you're doing, you will see international corporations just data mining, making a mint, basically. And that's all it's about. They see it as a commodity. And this is absolute torture. And we've got to protect not just the kids, but, you know, all humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Claire. I just want to make a comment here. These people, okay, we're talking about international intelligence agencies, big groups of people that are supposedly incredibly clever, incredibly intelligent, on one man in a camper van. And I've exposed this. There is nothing important about me. There is nothing significant about me. I'm an average man with my moral integrity intact. Let that be a message to everybody, because these people are human. They are, well, some people don't believe they are. They are flawed. They are complacent. They're making mistakes constantly. They are lost, and they are going to be beaten. And myself and Rangi are testament to that, because we are two men. And look at the changes that are happening. And I'm going to say another one now. So, sorry, Claire, did you finish? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm just listening.
Because it touches base with what you've been talking about, the MK Ultra. So I started reporting this in December 2022. In November 2023, David Cameron was brought back in as a Lord, very, very unusual, to become the Foreign Secretary. My research...
Can I tell you something? Can I add that before that part happened? When I was, you know, the Miller case, when there's phone hacking going on a while ago, well, I was part of that national case because I found out that my phone had been hacked. I didn't know about all this stuff at the time. And I had lawyers at the time I was in a press conference and all the press wanted my story, yada, yada, yada. And I was all over the media, international and everything. And I thought, oh my God, and now I'm on this hacking. So Met Police, right? The chief murder case people and the top of the top in the area. And as the Old Bailey, after the court case of the murder trial, as a key witness, I was invited to the pub opposite, and I was seeing all the brown envelopes being exchanged. And one of the key reporters, his connection with Coulson, Andy Coulson. Now, I met him personally in the offices at the former World News of the World or something, and the Sun headquarters in London. I got privy to witnessing firsthand, and I overheard a conversation reference to what you're saying, Gary. And that was literally a year before.
Fantastic.
And because I was at the time, of course, I was so traumatized what happened to me, and yet I was a former. It's ironic. Still had my press card at the time, so I had membership with a lawyer. So I was trying to run these things by him, but he said it's too hot to touch. You can't do nothing. So I had to sit on it all these years, and then just survive, sort of thing. So yeah, what you're saying with that.
He became a Lord, okay, and the Foreign Secretary, a highly unusual move. The research through Companies House links him to MK Ultra.
There you go.
Yeah, I've put the evidence together. So it links David Cameron to MK Ultra and also the child trafficking via Stanley Davis Group, another company featured throughout. But very significantly, not only was his granddad, if you research his granddad, was linked to torture, experimental torture techniques and MK Ultra as well. But this becomes very relevant and significant because on one set of my emails to 650 members of Parliament, I've already said about one set of emails where Harriet Harman responded. Another set, I had a response from an MP, one MP out of 650 again, and it was basically a MP sharing correspondence very significantly with the Minister of Sexual Crimes in the time of conflict. And it was discussing and undermining David Cameron and saying, and you can go and look at this email, it's in my public document file, saying that he was very concerned that David Cameron was still supplying weapons to Israel, going against all of the evidence, and he was basically undermining David Cameron massively. So that shows that there's MPs in there that are also concerned about their own government and what they're doing. So I want that to be a positive message to everybody out there.
No, that is a positive message, and that's some good information. The empath that's actually brought in, which is fantastic. Now, even though we've just gone over the time, I think I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But I hope people actually take a note with what's actually been said tonight. You've got it from the ground floor going all the way up. So whether you're talking about children being stolen from social services, school teachers, police officers looking the other way, and all these crimes taking place, and this allowed to happen because, you know, if you don't have victims, you need to create the demand. So the more demand they make, the more they stay in business. It's all business, and then you're getting it all the way to, well, you've heard it yourself now. Okay, and what I want to bring forward with everybody is back to square one. Everything that we're talking about, we will give you the evidence. We will drip feed you in such a manner that you can have it. 2 and 2 is 4. Because the more information you have, fact findings, the more you will actually stand up for the atrocities. Whether it is to do with physical, emotional, or PO rings. And all our children are at risk. I mean, within just this side of it, there's so many women and children who are targeted. It's just unbelievable. Then it also links up with the topics that we've been talking just now. Because everything comes back down to the future. What is our future going to be like if we don't stand up together today? So I want to put together, especially exactly with what Gary mentioned earlier on a couple of times, that people need to come together. And you know, if you're not religious, it doesn't matter. You just got to be able to care. You just got to understand that, do you care about your sister, your daughter, your mother, your wife? That's it. And if you do, we all must come together. I am going to be reaching out to, now this is, for example, the mosques and the churches. If you're listening, if you want to get involved, which you need to get involved, because everything is being destroyed around you, even though you don't see it. People are coming together. The Sikh community is also coming together. Every religious factor that I personally have come across is now coming together because it's one common platform for our children and for the future. Because if we don't fight for this future, then our children are not going to have a future. And don't kid yourself, don't mistake yourself. This is happening whether we like it or not. So I'm hoping people pay attention to everything that we've been talking about. We will be starting again tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And anybody, again, when it comes to fact findings, you want the information, we will provide it to you. Just stay a little bit strong enough, independent enough to get the information, to give you that strength to stand up. Because information is power. This is not family courts where you provide crap findings. This is fact findings. So, Gary, I don't know whether you want to go on much longer because we are going to have a long day tomorrow again.
I just want to say to you, Rangi, before we finish, because, yeah, you're right, I'll come on tomorrow. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for you, Rangi. I am honoured, privileged, and you're an inspiration. And thank you for letting me speak to you about all these things. You're a good man.
Brother, I mean, I'm going to say the very same thing to you with ditto. You know, and look at this, guys. Dear brothers and sisters, look at this. This is a Christian and a Muslim complementing each other and supporting what? Look around you. Our sons and daughters we're fighting for. Our mothers our grandparents, and we just want you to do the same thing. That's it. You're going to find negativity out there. That's normal, but that's only minority that will do the same thing as the authorities. And what is that? Manufacture documents, manufacture concerns, manufacture crimes, that's how they run. So to wake each other up, just take a good example of what we're actually doing. And Gary, you know, I'm more than grateful to having you on board, and I don't see any other way of starting Unite. And this is a perfect example where a Christian brother of ours and myself, we're standing together shoulder to shoulder. We're not holding anything back. We don't care about color, creed, or religion. And we're just trying to do our part. And we're now trying to drip feed the nation now of the information that you need so you could do the same damage. Because it doesn't matter. It's a game of duplication. Okay, so look, what I'm going to do is all those people that are actually in the boxes, as usual, I am going to give you the last saying within what's actually happening. So if I can start with Starseed, can I get you to start off first? This is just the last comments that person may have, or of even what's actually happened today. Starseed, unmute yourself, please. I just hope you haven't fell asleep. Maybe you fell asleep. Bless. Sometimes, you know, they listen so much, they don't want to come off. And I respect her, bless her. Brilliant.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
You didn't think I'd left you, did you? No, I'm still here. I've been listening in the background. I couldn't get the thing off. No, great conversation. Guys, it's been brilliant tonight. It's been really eye-opening. It's lovely this lady's come on, empath, which is quite good because I think a lot of us have fallen under this category that this lady's talking about. I know she's had a different experience, but she's saying she's been in the bases, the military bases. A lot of us have been indoctrinated into these city... when you go back into it, you realise what's happened. But anyway... into this system of it's cyber, it's all to do with not wanting us to wake up to what we're here to do, kind of thing, especially if you're an old soul. So yeah, but we're all experienced, we're all going through our own different, but it all connects to the same thing that we know that needs removing from our society. We need better worldwide. We need better in our country, and for our people, and like you say, the children. And I think people have said it's going to get worse before it gets better because of the stuff that's coming out. Is how any of us get up every day and know what we know is a divine thing you have to face every day, knowing what you know and knowing that there's only so much you can do without the correct network and support around you. When you find out your own country, the people that you entrusted with your life and your soul are the ones that are responsible for nearly taking you out and you're still alive, then they've got a big problem on their hands at the moment, haven't they? Yeah. Because there's a lot of people that are awake and that are exposing it and that are not scared of them, and that are protected by divine, the unseen. Seeing as they want to speak about Lucifer, they've inverted everything. They've turned, 2,000 years since Jesus has been, and still they haven't learned the lesson of what Jesus came here to teach. And they've managed to make a mockery, and they're making a mockery at the moment, but I can guarantee you the people that are laughing won't be laughing very soon because they're under divine judgment and they can't escape it. This is from source. You can't get any bigger than that, can you? The creator of the universe. These people want to go against the creator of the universe. Well, good luck with that. But, we know who wins this fight and it ain't them. So stay strong, everybody. And we'll get through this.
Well said, well said. Thank you very much, Starseed. Well done. If I could go to the next one, the one that got away, if you could just unmute yourself, your last comment or for this evening. The one that got away.
Hi again.
How you doing?
I am grateful for all the knowledge I get from each time I watch a program, and Gary, and also all your followers, which they come and talk in this show. It's very. I was just listening to the Starseed, so I was just taking in everything what she was saying, and the other lady as well. So it's just so much. But yeah, you have to stay strong and get up every day and do the same stuff. I would like to thank to all of you for all the knowledge given, and I would like to help in any way I can.
Well, sister, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. But I'm just going to add one thing you said about my followers. All this is your community. Remember that. You're not alone. All these are your community. I'm just saying it again, just so you know, because this is all of us that care about the situation problem. But thank you very much for joining us tonight. We will be on live tomorrow, but thank you very much. I'm just going to go to Rico next. Rico.
Hello, yeah, I would say this, that if the devil only told lies, no one would believe him. So you've got to look at these big people like David Icke and Tommy Robinson, because they'll speak mainly truth, but right at the end they'll take you to where the control structure doesn't want you to go. So I'll just say that there's power in prayer. Demons are real. ETs are interdimensional. They are not interstellar. So when they say they come from other planets, they're not telling the truth. They're demonic entities, and they come from other dimensions. And God bless you all. And there's power in prayer.
Amen, my brother. Amen. If I could go to my sister Leah, can I get you next, please?
Are you, bro? You okay?
I'm okay, my sister.
Good.
Last comment, anything you want to share before we go?
I want to tell everyone, stay strong. You've got this. We all love you. We're all with you. And you know what? We're going to fight this every step of the way. And Randy, you're my brother forever. I love you. And we are standing shoulder to shoulder the same. And you know what? I love all of you. Stay very strong. We got you.
Thank you very much. You know, and these prayers that are coming in is all me and Gary actually asked for. Just want to point that out. That's all we look for.
Yeah.
Sister, thank you very much. Just get ready for tomorrow. We will be back on tomorrow. If I could go to my next empath, my sister, can you hear us?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Last comment or statement you might want to say or make until tomorrow?
Yeah. While you're, just a heads up really, while you're coming together and exposing what you're doing, it's always important to keep a journal, personal journal, of what you may be going through, any triggers, any situations, offline or online. And then you can see the pattern of events where your emotions and the mind is very key to remember why you're doing all this. They will be monitoring you. No fear, like Gary, you know, all people coming together, walks of life and backgrounds. And as a survivor, and many of us are out there, and we don't realise we are on the watch list. There's many of us like me for years been trying to help and warn people, but we just been, you know, being prevented. But it's a wonderful time to be here now. And thank you for inviting me up to panel. Thank you, Gary, what you're doing, because it's a relief, really. So, yeah, love and light to everybody. Thank you.
Sister, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's really appreciative having you tonight. Just if you're available tomorrow, please join us tomorrow. Gary, my brother, I'm going to give you the last before I say what I need to say. Gary, please.
Just everyone, this is a lot to take in. Stay positive and stand in the truth. This is very important. In all walks of life, be truthful to your loved ones. Stand in truth, stand in your moral integrity and your moral conscience. If you do that, and if we had all done that in the past, we probably wouldn't be in this position where we are now in. So let's get back to that. Truth, integrity, honesty, trust, transparency.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So I want to say Gary, thank you very much once again for reaching out and joining and coming together. I hope people, this sets an example for people, even though people are trying to do this, but they need to continue moving forward. So I'm just going to add on one thing of my sister, the bother empath, that she mentioned, how we're moving forward and how difficult it is. So for me, it's very, very simple. Every day when I go to sleep knowing what's happening. I'm not guaranteed the next day, but the next day when I get up, I know what I need to do. So I get back up. God Almighty's given me another day it gives me another day to stand up, to move forward. Now, I think it's froze me there again. Has it, Gary?
Yes, I can still hear you though.
Right, well, I don't want to be frozen when I come off, so I'm going to redo this. So if you could just take over for a few minutes while I do this again.
And Randy, the hubby said he loves you, bro, and he's proud of you.
Oh, well, I will be chatting with you. But Gary, I'm going to leave it on. Let me just change this and we'll finish it properly, because they must love freezing me. They're probably getting some good snapshots of me. So Gary, over to you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining myself and Rangi. I mean, what a man Rangi is. What an inspiration for everybody, for giving this platform to me and you to all hear it as well. We've got 65,000 people. And we need a collective strategy. Don't forget, I've done a document. I'd like feedback on it. We need something that everyone can look at and say, right, yeah, I can be doing that. We're all doing the same thing, heading in the right direction. Together, we can change the world. We are unstoppable in our masses.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I've got somebody there to pick up the pieces sometime, because we do find this. But the good thing is this is where we can speak up. We don't hold anything back, and we don't change our words neither on here. Now, I will say there is a lot more that I am putting together for the whole cause. We already got a podcast studio ready to be up and running. I'm at the moment just dealing with one thing that I'm overwhelmed with. There are so many people coming forward that we need help and support. It's not for me or what me and Gary are doing. It's a support for women and children, parents throughout the United Kingdom. When they're getting their children taken off through these corporate companies, they need your help. So it doesn't matter where you are, what department you're in, up and down the country, or even internationally now. If you drop us a message or contact us through LCS News that you want to help and support, you could actually make a change for people yourself. Okay, that's all we need. Although apart from that, there is a lot more that is going to be happening. I'm hoping to have the LCS News platform up and running live, so we could report live crimes and stories on a daily basis, which will be a bit like BBC News, but it will be going live. On top of that, there's a lot of journalists and people like that coming on board, where we will be attending courts, taking the information and reporting stories and information relating to stories live on a daily basis as well. But you can't do that on our own. Okay, so it's your chance to come together, and you could be part of any group and organization. We're just trying to push this out to get into the public awareness. And if I could get enough people to come together, even legal firms that want to help and support, you could take over them departments, because we want to focus on making the change. And the only way we're going to make a change is stand and have a fight. So from me, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I hope you've took some information tonight. I hope it made sense. If it didn't make any sense, for any further clarity, stay tuned, get in touch tomorrow, or ask us the question. We will make sure that information is drip feeded you in a layman language. So from me and everybody else from the team, and thank you very much again to Gary and all the members of the people who were brave enough to come into the boxes. I'm really grateful for that. We are making the change. We are going to move forward and get the job done. So
We
from
love
me,
you, Rangi.
love is loads. Good night and
Love
God
you,
bless.
bro.
And see
Love
you
you,
all
Gary.
tomorrow.
Well
Good
done.
night, all. Thank you.
Right,
Bye-bye.
good night. Good night.
Good night. Love you all.
वो थोड़ा सा ना उसकी सीजनिंग में वो पाउडर यूज करना, देखना जो टेस्ट उसका बनेगा, लाइक आउट ऑफ दिस
पारो
वर्ल्ड।
ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਪਾਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਣਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ
ਇਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਗਿੱਚੀ ਤੋਂ ਪਕੜਨਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਗੁਆਂਢੀ है।
तुम लोग जो है ना वो पालक
इनको
गोश्त
पर
की दालों की
पॉपकॉर्न देने को कर दो।
सोफिस्टिकेटेड लोग हैं। शैबी मैं हारिस और मारबन सोफिस्टिकेटेड लोग हैं। हमें इन डिशेस
चलो
के बारे
नबील,
में
आई टेल यू व्हाट, हमारे साथ एक बैठ के ना यूं काट के ना जूसी स्टेक खाते थे, हम उनको ब्लॉक कर चुके हैं, सोच के समझ लो, हम बहुत औखे लोग
कौन है वो? किसको ब्लॉक? कौन से बंदा जो स्टेक वाला आपने ब्लॉक किया? कौन है बंदा वो?
उनकी समझ आ गई, सबको आ गई,
नबील पता है
पूरी
कि
दुनिया जानती है, उसी ने ब्लॉक किया, मजाक नहीं है।
तो सुने ना, उस बंदे ने सरलॉइन स्टेक लेके ना एक पहली दफा खा के उसने वीडियो बना के वो बड़ा वो आके
ना करें, जितनी बात की उतनी रहने दें।
सुनने देना यार, उसी चुप कर
यार, मजाक कर रहा हूँ, मजाक कर रहा हूँ।
और अच्छा वो पता क्या था,
इसमें कौन सी ऐसी बात है? हम जस्ट जोकिंग।
वो अच्छा वो मीडियम रेयर थी और वो उसकी शक्ल से नजर आ रहा था कि उसे खाई नहीं जा रही।
कौन था? मुझे चाहिए बंदा, कौन नहीं बंदा?